Hello, Ghosty! It feels it feels so weird to be going live twice in one day. I've only done that like maybe 2 other times, maybe. Like I've gone live and been on collabs and stuff, but I've never gone live personally twice in one day. It's so weird. It's so weird. Evil, by the way, thank you so much for the visa for trying. I'm so Kaidi, welcome back home. Thank you for that. And thank you for being first. Otherwise, oh my god. Hello, Prince. Hello, M. Hello, Stoner Boy. Hello, Rex. Hello, Ver. Bits for 40k lore. Hello, Stoner Boy twice. Hello, Requiem. Hello, Evil. I hope you guys are doing well. Thank you for the follow, Carlton. Okay, so here's the thing. We were talking about it earlier, and I really wanted to dive into Angron's lore, because I'm really interested in him. But I didn't have much time to actually like sort through. People had recommended some specific videos in my comments, and some stuff like that. So what was recommended to me was, what is it? Quack Duck? Hold on. I was just looking at his name. How did I already forget? Crack Duck. I was recommended a Crack Duck video, and I saw that they had a whole playlist of all their like lore videos that they did. So I thought that that would be good. Why the fuck is my mom calling me? Hold on, chat. Lamau, my mom was literally calling to tell me, oh, I left you guys leftovers from Cheesecake Factory in the fridge. There's a corn cake and fried cheese and some kind of egg roll. And I was like, couldn't this have been a text, Mom? What did you have to call and tell me? But okay, thanks. I'll put them in the air fryer tomorrow. Yeah, Crack Duck. Krakduk. The videos came highly recommended from multiple sources. So I think we'll check it out because it's shorter videos about different parts of lore. Like there's one about the Admech, there's one about the Inquisition, there's one about every orc clan, there's one about the salamanders, there's one about the space wolves, there's one about Sister of Battle, lesser demons of chaos, Thousand Suns. I don't know, there's a ton of shit and I don't know what any of it is, and it seems like little palatable like 10 to 20 minute videos of different stories. So I was like, okay, let's check it out and see how it goes. And then that lets me get time over the weekend to figure out what would be a good like Ingron video for me to dive into. So yeah, we're gonna check this out. As long as you're up for it and don't exhaust yourself? No, not at all. I've been like so excited to learn more about Warhammer. I've been looking forward to this moment. Oh my god, I just realized this whole time the music's been muted and nobody said anything. That was probably what Princess Society comment was about, huh? VTubers diving into 40k, a favorite American pastime. It certainly is now. Yeah, Cheesecake Factory. She also left Cheesecake, but I didn't know that until I got some ice cream. I was like, you know what? Warhammer 40k stream needs some motherfucking ice cream. So I have ice cream. There's cookie dough. Space Marine 1 and 2 playthrough. Is it on Steam? I mean, I don't have it. Hold on, let me look. Oh, I see. Space Marine 2 is $60. Yeah, if someone wants to gift it to me, sure. But how do you how long? Oh, is it multiplayer? I'm looking at it. Is it like online? Interesting. 3-player co-op. Wow. Well, I mean, it's something. Maybe we'll play it eventually. Yeah, we'll see. Rogue Trader is a good 40k game. Bolt gun. Oh, I saw I think it was Bricky had made a video about Bolt gun, and I was like, oh, I've never heard about this, but I didn't watch any of it yet. Space Marine 2 would be like an 8-hour campaign. Oh my god. Maybe I could do 2 streams of it and play. Do you have to play multiplayer? Bolt gun, boomer shooter, rogue trader is RPG. Okay. Bolt gun is a boomer shooter. It's neat, but if you don't... What's a boomer shooter? I'm not sure if I know what genre that is. What's a boomer shooter? Is it like shooter for millennials? Doom? Okay. Darktide and Mechanicus are solid games. Horde shooter, XCOM. Interesting. Club or solo? Both are fun. Okay. I don't know if I would love a Doom style shooter, but you guys should put... Well, I'm sure there's like a list. I can Google Warhammer games and look into it. We'll see. I'm still learning the universe, guys. We're jumping the gun a little bit, okay? I don't even know what orcs are yet. I can't even remember all of the Chaos Gods' names. I tried earlier. But you know what? When I was thinking about it earlier, I remembered Zeech was the last one. The one that I couldn't remember. I remembered it like 4 hours later. I can only remember 4 Primarch names. So let's you know, let's keep watching some videos. Let's start remembering a little bit more. I still feel very confused, but I'm intrigued and interested, so. Let's just try Normus. Oh, really? Well, I guess when I get to the point, I'll just ask chat again. What would you guys want to see? I might remember some of these names. Blood and Teeth. Orc theme side scroller. That's cute. Take it at the speed you want and it's fun for you. I'm enjoying so far. The watching videos and having people explain it to me It's fun. I like it. I'm a fan. I'm curious about painting, but there is someone that I watched on YouTube actually. Totally unrelated to my content. Like, she's some random lifestyle like lady who's older than me. But I just like her vibe, and I think she's funny and kind of cute. And she said something about like, whenever there's a new hobby, I only invest into it like 30%. So she was getting into like not painting, but coloring with alcohol-based markers, like Copic markers. That's what a lot of artists will use. But nowadays there's a lot of other brands that are alcohol-based markers, and so you don't have to spend Copic prices to get like these nice markers, and there's a lot of technique you can use with them. But she was like, I don't need to buy every color under the sun. I can buy like, you know, just a small starter pack, and I can practice the, you know, I can look up how to do things, and I can practice the techniques, and then if I keep enjoying it and having fun with it, then I can buy more colors, and then I can buy special paper or whatever. So I'm trying to think of it that way. Like, let's go 30% for now. Let's go with 30%, you know. We're getting knee deep in the water. And then as we get a little deeper, like, we'll see how we go. I'll see how we feel as we go. Instead of like dive bombing in and being overwhelmed and drowning, you know? Yeah. But I liked her approach to it. Like, only invest yourself like 30%, or only invest 30% into something until you, like, you know, dedicate time and play around with it. I thought that was a pretty good advice. Space Marines, Chaos Gods, and independent alien species like the Necron. Yeah. Don't want to throw money or time into something you don't know about yet. Yeah, I mean, I think I would, no matter what, enjoy painting miniatures because I'm artistic. Like, I do my own nail art, so I'm sure I would have fun with that. But that's a big monetary investment, you know? Like, that's deciding to just paint some miniatures for fun is, I imagine, you know, a decent chunk of money. So we're sticking with the lore for now. And, you know, maybe I'll watch some like miniature painting related videos. There's one I wanted to see about like what I wish I knew before I started painting miniatures. So maybe one day we'll watch some of those. And, you know, then we'll see. We'll see what happens. If we decide, you know what, I'd like to paint some, but, you know, do we want to? Like, maybe I'll throw some things on Throne. Maybe I'll buy some things. Like, we'll see. But yeah, I do those shops. You guys were telling me about Warhammer shops having like a free miniature day or like painting day or whatever, but I don't want to go out and do it in person. I want to be in my house. I want to paint right here. For now, I am shy. Why do you think I'm a VTuber on the internet? Because I don't want to leave my house. Yeah. Oh, use stuff. That's smart. Don't downplay yourself. You remembered the most important primarchs and all the gods. You am smart. Thank you. Thank you. I am smart, but building and painting the minis is fun, but that's something you can do without even having to do 40k. That's true. And that doesn't have to be like official either. Like, it could be my brother. Weirdly, my brother is into 40k a little bit. I had no fucking clue, but it doesn't surprise me because he used to play D&D and WoW, and I just feel like it's in that realm. And he was telling me about someone. Shoot, I'd have to ask him again. But you can get like a custom miniature. And he was like, you should get like a custom miniature as Riri and paint Riri. And I was like, that would be really cute. I don't know what anyone would do with her, but I could paint a little mini Riri and it would be pretty cute. It'd be pretty cute. Painting ASMR. Yeah, I do. I have a binaural microphone, but I haven't done anything with it yet. So I do probably in May. Because April's a little bit busy. Unless I plan to do it the last week of April. But I'm gonna try doing like just an ASMR whisper chatting type of stream. And then I want to do some script reading, but I need to like sit down and record it and turn off all my fans and all of that, and I need to write up a script. So I haven't made it that far, but I will before the end of the year, before the end of the summer, I will upload a script reading. I was thinking about just doing the Nikkei ASMR scripts. I thought that would be funny, but I also don't want to get in trouble, so I don't know. To me, it feels like a cover, so creatively it should be okay, but you like the atmosphere at the shop. That's what got you hooked. I think that's fair, but but yeah, I probably will go to a store just so I can like look at stuff in person. And it does seem, I mean, the community online has been incredible and super nice, so I'm not worried about any of that. But play on tabletop, get a collab with Bricky. That's so nice that you think I could collab with Bricky. That is, I feel so flattered. I'm very flattered. But I am a schmo. That would absolutely never happen. He does seem like a very cool dude though. And I'm very grateful for like it seems like he's pretty chill with the fact that all the VTubers are looking to him to be grandfathered into 40k, and he seems to just roll with it. So, you know, that's always appreciated, because sometimes like face cam streamers and, you know, IRL video creators are not really into the VTuber side of things. And I've done both. I was a face cam streamer before I was a VTuber many years ago. I don't have an issue with, you know, either way of making content, but I think a lot of normies find VTubing really weird. So, but I guess like if you make Warhammer videos, are you a normie? And I mean that in the best way possible. Not with that attitude, you won't. Fair enough. I'm not saying I couldn't do it. I think I can be entertaining. But when it comes to collaborating online, unless you know someone and have a connection, if you are a significant size smaller than someone, the likelihood of them collaborating with you is really small. Because jump scare ASMR, did something happen? What was I trying to say? But yeah, the like if you are, you know, 80% smaller or smaller than another creator, unless you're like friends with them or you have a connection or like something, it's unlikely for A, them to discover you, and B, for them to collaborate with you, because how do I say this? It's just, I think it's riskier for larger creators because, you know, a smaller creator is maybe, it is less known. So it's like how like when you're collaborating with a bigger person, A, there's like mutual benefit, right? Like from a business perspective, there's mutual benefit. But I also think too, there's almost a bit of a trust thing, and I don't know. I always said that if I was like a larger streamer, and we had a discussion about this a while ago, but how like it's when you're trying to like network and meet other creators that you vibe with and get along with and would maybe want to work with, you kind of have to stay like within a realm of influence, I guess. Just socially. Because if I go reach out to like Iron Mouse, she'll like I'm you know, it would be like a small town news anchor or something reaching out to like an A-list movie actor. Like, I'm not saying don't do it, because some people are cool, but I think a lot of people will not trust that you're being genuine about it. So it kind of has to be the other way around. Like, the more known person or the person with the larger following has to reach down. Because if Iron Mouse reached out to me, like, that's a different story, right? If Iron Mouse saw my stream and was like, wait, she's hella funny, I want to do something, like, she's cool, I don't care that no one knows her, and contacted me, then like that conversation can happen. But it's like, I don't know, it's kind of complicated and hard to explain. And I'm not saying like don't reach out to people that are larger than you. It's just, I think there's a lot of societal norms and a lot of like mistrust that you're not just trying to clout chase or use people for their audience. And I've always said that I never ever want to come across that way. Regardless of someone's size, I will never collaborate or interact with them if I don't have like an interest, or like I like them as people or as the content they create. So yeah. Oh, your stream idea is ASMR, but you jump scare chat every few minutes. I would never do that to you guys. Videos on YouTube of Ricky playing 40k tabletop game. Yeah, I do know you can play on tabletop. I've never seen how 40k is actually played. He's on record talking about how he doesn't like anime that much, but that's fine. Like, you don't have to like anime to be a VTuber. And there are plenty of VTubers that aren't like anime style art either. Yeah. But I don't have any idea of how 40k is actually played, the game. We'll get there. I'll eventually do like a game walkthrough or something. We'll get there. Just not quite yet. Not quite yet. I wanna have a little bit better understanding of the lore, because I feel like the names of things will be useful and helpful if you're seeing if someone's teaching you how to play the game. Yeah, Play on Tabletop has a great video. Yeah. We will eventually. I am curious. Closest 40k shop is 45 minutes away. Games last 3 to 5 hours. Whoa. I mean, if you could do it on a weekend, I would say do it. Also, someone said something about Bricky collecting Bricky collecting all the glitch stars. Just to re-clarify, I'm a manager for glitch stars. I'm not a talent for glitch stars. I'm happy to be associated with them, but I'm not a talent under glitch stars. I'm like, you know how offline TV has like offline TV and friends? Like, and it would be like their editors and shit, and their friends that weren't part of offline TV, but like were associated. That's like me with glitch stars. I'm the manager for Dreamers, but I'm not an actual talent, so I'm gonna keep saying that just to make sure that no one ever gets confused, because I don't want anyone to think that I'm representing glitch stars as a talent. Just the manager. But I love them and I support them in everything that they do, because they're all incredible streamers, incredible content creators, wonderful people, adorable girls. Ricky being the VTuber ambassador of 240k is funny because he doesn't care for anime. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, advice is tomorrow. Thanks, E-man. Let me get you guys the link again. Fuck, I never posted my go live tweet. At least I saw it now. Let me give you my link up copy link address. Dude, where am I? I lost my window. Okay. Submit anonymous advice here for advice stream tomorrow. Okay, I'll pin this on YouTube. You guys have it, and Twitch you can exclamation mark advice, but I'll pin that. And now you guys know, tomorrow around the same time actually as today, I will be doing my podcast talk show, Advice from Beyond the Grave, where I give you advice from the perspective of your loving, caring big sister, your little virtual big sis on the internet. And the advice is totally anonymous, or like the submissions are totally anonymous, so you can submit anything that maybe you want some advice on, you want an opinion on, you're curious what I would do in a situation, anything like that. Yeah, you can submit it and then I'll talk about it tomorrow. Yeah. Thank you, Yume. Ricky watches it a little bit. People have paid him to watch it. I could see that. I could see that. Okay. Well, I think that's about all the announcements I have. We can go ahead and get to the actual, like, watching. Also, Ellibot 1, Flame Scion, Rothin 3, Panzersoul. Thank you guys for the follow. I am Febs. Oh, that was earlier. But thank you guys for the follow. Welcome to the Ghosty Game. Corn the Blood God. Ellibot on YouTube as well. Thank you guys. Thank you guys. Just engage with the lore if you find the game itself or painting and modeling not your vibe. Yeah, I'm glad that the community seems open to that. Because again, I don't know if I'll like the game. I've never really played one like it. I do think I'd like painting, but it's not something that I can like realistically just jump into. Because I had to buy a new GPU recently, so I got a pause on the spending for like 2 months. So it's nice to see YouTube chat lively. Yeah, YouTube chat has been more lively recently because of the 40k stuff. Some more people have become ghosties, so it does make me happy. The 40k streams are definitely like the most popular, but even in like my co-working today, YouTube chat was decently lively. So yeah, audiobooks are peak, but I wonder if I could stream an audiobook. Like and talk about it. I feel like probably not, right? Yeah. But I would be curious if there's like any good books. I do have a Kindle, so I could read it. I've been reading like fantasy smut. I've been reading romantasy. So you guys could get me out of that, I guess. Although I do love my romantasy. Venn diagram of lore, enjoy what you like. But I do. I think it's really appreciative that the community is like, hey, you don't have to enjoy all aspects of it to like be a member of the community and enjoy it. Not every community is quite as open as that. So when is the fantasy smut stream? I don't know how I would stream fantasy smut. We could stream a lore explanation. We could stream a review of the series of A Court of Thorn and Roses. Or what's the one I'm reading right now? Fourth Wing. Kind of like Fourth Wing better. 40k is big enough for anyone to find a niche. That's true. Listen to it off stream and do like a book club. I've thought about that too. I'm just not sure how it would work, so. Have I liked it? Yeah, I'm really intrigued by it. If I didn't like it, if I wasn't interested, I wouldn't be continuing to check it out. So I'm just up. I can't like fake it till I make it. I can't just like coast on going with like what's popular or trends. I can't trend hop very well because if I'm not interested in it, if I'm not genuinely interested in some way, I'm such a boring person. I can't fake it till I make it. Watching fantasy smut? No. Infinite and the Divine. Patreon fantasy smut tier. What? You can play it on... Yeah, I have heard you can play it on Tabletop Simulator. So maybe I could ask people if they wanted to try playing it. I'm not sure who I would ask, so we'll see. YouTube video review of a small book, 1 hour long form essay. I was trying to think of a goal to make me do that. But like 1 hour would be so long. One hour would be a lot. I don't know. 50 subs? Your grandpa does a cultural thing because he lives in Nottingham. Oh! Whoa, that's so cool. I didn't know it was from Nottingham. I didn't know there was a Warhammer world. What the heck? Okay, new goal. I want to go to Warhammer world. Is that still a thing? It's well on Tabletop Sim and free, really? We're gonna diddle the dragon? What the heck? I don't want to diddle a dragon. It's gotta... Can it talk to me and give consent? You want him? Oh, I'm sure. I mean, I know a lot of people, but I'm also trying to maintain my title as manager. So, and I also have not really met new VTubers in a while. So I feel like it could be a good opportunity to reach out to some other people that maybe I don't know and say, hey, I saw that you were like looking into 40k lore. Would you be willing to learn it on tabletop with me, you know? It's still a thing? Whoa. Huh, I'll have to check it out. I'll have to Google it later. You have a pub inside? Wait, that's really cute! Oh my god, I had no idea. A favorite Legion already? I'm a sucker for... I keep wanting to call him Sagittarius. I said it once yesterday and now I can only call him Sagittarius. Sanguinius and the Blood Elves. Yeah. But I'm really curious about Angron's backstory. So before the next time that I check out stuff like videos, I want to see something about Sagittarius, yeah, Sanguinius and Ingron. Those are the two I'm most interested in right now. Yeah. Yeah. Did I say Blood Elves? Blood Angels. God damn it. I did that earlier too. He's Sagittarius and Blood Elves. I have this thing where once I say it wrong, that's the thing stuck in my head. So I play a lot of Valorant. That's my not stream game is Valorant. And I shouldn't say I play a lot. I barely have time to play. But there are two agents in that game. One is Chamber and one is Cypher. Oh my god, literally I was fucking myself up in the head while I thought about it. And I kept calling Chamber Cypher and Cypher Chamber for literally the first year and a half that I played it. Because when I say names, I like picture them in my head and I see the C and I just immediately would say like the wrong name every time. Like they were both Chamber to me. Like it was so bad. It was so bad. So now that I've said Sagittarius and I said Blood Elves earlier, I'm gonna fuck it up for like 6 months. I guarantee. I guarantee. Uh oh, my ice cream's hella melting. Yeah. Chapter. A Warhammer themed VTuber has a hover Sanguinius. Oh, really? Yeah, I was the most interested in Sanguinius for sure. I love that. Okay, we've yapped enough. Let's watch some videos. Hopefully this is still working. Okay. I think we're good. I tested the volume earlier. So hopefully everything's fine. But I figured, okay, this all of Crack Duck's videos about Warhammer 40k lore, all of it together is 10 hours. So I'm not sure if we should just watch in order from oldest to newest, or if we should like skip around and watch the ones that chat is most interested in. I feel like we'll start from oldest to newest. And after like an hour, I'll see where we're at, and I'll skip around to some videos that like we're most interested in, like the orcs or something. Yeah. Just start from oldest to newest. See, that was my instinct, but I was worried people would be sad that I didn't get to like some of the newer stuff. I just feel like watching older would be better. Okay, let's try. Let's do it. It's so loud.
Hi friends, today we're going to talk about one of the most iconic events in the 40k setting.
Okay.
And also a huge lesson in foresight. Today we'll discuss the Octarius War. So first off, you might ask, what is Octarius? I'm not familiar with all these nerd words. I have a life. Well, Octarius is just a large sector that's mostly controlled by the orcs. Then there's kind of a New York situation where Octarius' capital world is called Octaria. And that's important because that's home of the Overfiend, which would be the leader of the Orc Empire. Now, the reason that Octarius became the hellhole we all know and love today is mostly because of a little guy named Phidias Cryptman. Cryptman is an inquisitor belonging to the Ordo Xenos, the inquisitors who deal with aliens and such, and he's also one of the Imperium's leading experts on Tyranids. He assisted the Ultramarines during the First Tyrannical War, so he got to witness their entrance into the galaxy firsthand. So, when High Fleet Leviathan began destroying worlds, Cryptman devised a genius...
The audio is only in the right speaker. But I think it's the video, because... Hold on. Yeah, I think it's just the video, because I was listening to stuff earlier and it wasn't. I'm pretty sure it's just the video. Sorry, guys. I'll click on one of the newer ones. Here, hold on. I'll click on one of the newer ones just to make sure. Yeah, this was done... This was done a year ago. But if I click on a newer one...
Hi friends, Space...
Yeah, the newer one is not, so... It's just this video. We all have to deal with it. I feel like there's already so many names that I've lost.
Him. Cryptman pulled a Russian in winter and called an exterminatus on every planet in the Tyranids' path, killing millions. However,
what the fuck?
The Tyranids didn't listen when Cryptman said that his mom told him it's his turn on the Xbox, and the exterminatus only served to slow the bugs. So then Cryptman devised a whole new foolproof plan. And by foolproof, I mean proof that he was a fool. Cryptman knew that the Tyranids' unending numbers and adaptability would only be matched by the orcs. Both Xenos factions are notable for getting stronger proportional to the number and strength of their opponents. Tyranids gain strength when they consume biomass, and they bioengineer better bugs to match stronger opponents. Similarly, orcs grow bigger and stronger relative to how much they fight, and the more formidable their opponent, the more powerful they become. So, of course, pulling a Godzilla and pitting the two in a giant, unending battle makes perfect sense, and would not lead to any consequences at all. And I actually like to think this is how Cryptman deals with all of his problems. Pardon, Inquisitor Cryptman, we have prepared your lunch. Unfortunately, some Mechanicus handled it and it's become heavily radiated. Oh, that's quite alright. I'll just put this cyanide on it, and it should kill the radiation. So, to kick off his scheme, Cryptman commanded some Deathwatch teams into the planet Carpathia, which, to my utter disappointment, is not a fish planet, in order to capture some gene stealers. He then put...
I'm sorry, did he accidentally unalive himself? Was that an actual thing that happened?
These gene stealers onto a space hulk bound for the Octarius sector, and he turned that old hunk of junk into the world's largest carrot on a stick. He then casually blew up a moon and then played the waiting game. Then, not too long after, the space hulk arrived above an orc-controlled planet called Orok, which would be kind of like if we named a planet Human. And from the atmosphere, the Tyranids dropped a ton of mycetic spores, leading to a lot of spore-on-spore violence. The orcs were caught off guard, but they still fought hard. However, it wasn't hard enough because the orcs were defeated and turned into biomass for the Nids. R.I.P. Orok. So due to Phidias' fiddling, the orcs and the Nids became the ultimate power couple, where they both empower each other and elevate their partner to new heights, effectively making Cryptman the ultimate matchmaker. Other than the constant abuse and violence they to inflict on each other, of course. So with that, Octarius became a ticking time bomb in which the winner of the war will be a mega-powered menace, right to, in technical terms, wreck shit. The Tyranids continue their process of dropping spores, dropping orcs, and taking biomass throughout the sector. However, the orcs began to fare a little bit better, putting the Nids in a near stalemate since the orcs and Nids were producing troops at nearly the same rate and at a nice average KD ratio. Along with the main combatants, other factions also joined in hopes to third-party the hordes and get an easy vicroy. Khorne forces closed in to capitalize on the bloodshed, Imperials felt they needed to at least try to fix Cryptman's blunder, and other factions fought to prevent future catastrophes. With that being said, the orcs actually did start to secure some big victories despite their rough start. The orc overfiend was able to kill a swarm lord, and then Cool Kid Gaskell came to the party and brought it back to life. However, the party was short-lived as Gaskell's ADHD fired off, and he decided there weren't enough chicks at this party, chicks being new and interesting enemies to fight, so he left to seek other new and interesting enemies to fight. Then it became even worse when the Hive Mind made a bigger and badder Swarm Lord and went round 2 with the Overfiend. Unfortunately for the Greenskins, the Overfiend was bested this time, and his cunning brain was brutally eaten. Afterwards, the Orc pulled a 12th century Catholic, where a bunch of war bosses claimed themselves to be a new pope, Overfiend, and this inevitably led to Orc infighting. The Orc infighting allowed the Tyranids to get the upper hand once more, and with that, they were pretty much able to win the war. Now Leviathan is bigger and badder than ever, and they even got a starter box with the Ultramarines, perhaps one of the biggest honor in all of 40k. Even more surprisingly, they actually beat the Ultramarines at the Battle of Akram for the 10th edition campaign, and if that doesn't show their newfound power, then I don't think anything will. And with that, this has just been a really short look at one of the most interesting events in 40k. I really encourage you reading some of the books or looking more into the lore, if that so interests you. And please, like, subscribe, share this with people if you thought it was interesting.
What were the little alien dudes?
Too mean for my poor...
The Inquisitors? Tyranids? Did they kill off the orcs? Did they kill them off? The Tyranids are the aliens, okay. Hi, Rico, good evening. Not all the orcs, just the ones on Octavius. In that sector, Inquisition is the Imperium's secret police. Okay. Okay. So the Tyranids are crazy strong alien race or something. Thousands of planets with orcs. Okay. Do not put Tyranids and orcs against each other. They'll only make them stronger. Makes sense. But what if you want to make them stronger and then the winner, like, you win them over to fight with you? Would they not be open to that? Yeah. When Ricky does his new faction video too, we'll watch that as well. Like, I'll give it a couple days because I want to be respectful of his content. So I don't want to react like right away. I think the first one I reacted like after a day or two, but I privated the VOD until a couple days after that. So I'll just wait to react like 3 or 4 days after he posts it. Because I want to make sure to be respectful of the person putting all the time in to actually like create the video and not take away any views or anything from him. But yeah, it was a fast summary of a complicated situation. I could tell, but I got the gist of it. So Tyranids or Zerg. I know StarCraft very minimally, but I do know what Zergs are. So he doesn't have a policy. Oh, it's not about a policy. It's just about being respectful. Like, I don't think it's the best idea, like, reacting to things, like, right away. I don't know. You want to make sure that people get all of, like, the majority of their views and people... I don't know. It just feels like the right thing to do. Yeah. Orcs can sometimes be convinced to fight for humans until they get bored. Oh, okay. Unwritten rules. Yeah, to me it feels more of like, because most people, when you post content, like your most views typically are within like the first couple days of posting. But if other people are reacting to it and like watching it on their stream and talking about it, like it could take away people actually watching it on the channel that created it. And I never want to take away views. And I'm a small streamer, so I think it is less impactful, but it just feels like a morally right thing to do to let the content sit for a couple days or a week before streaming it and talking about it. Because I'm also not like a drama channel. I could never do that. Those I think are the only people that can kind of get away with reacting to stuff like that, because it's like drama, so it has to be like day of. But yeah, like it feels like a courtesy thing. Yeah, exactly. Orcs are bioengineered living weapons made to fight and kill in war. Okay, yeah, I don't really know anything about them yet. So this video is about misconceptions, so this one will be a little bit different.
Friends, so it's no secret that I love Warhammer, and as such, I like to read about Warhammer on the internet quite a bit. And well, just like anything on the internet, there's a lot of misinformation out there. Warhammer has long been plagued by lore misconceptions, either spread through memes or simple misunderstandings when reading the often verbose codices. So today I'd like to go through some of the worst misconceptions. And in addition to this, I'd like to spice things up by replacing them with my all-new fun misconceptions so I can spread more lies and deceit on the internet.
I kind of like it.
Alright, so let's get into it. Alright, so misconception number 1. Orcs, they could just imagine anything into existence. You know, many people seem to believe that orcs, they could just think really, really hard and imagine anything that they want into existence. We all know the iconic "I'm a tank" incident, but, you know, I'm sorry, Bricky, I really don't want to pull an actually on you, but... actually...
Oh my god.
The orc psychic assault ability in lore is usually described more as a
The
really
Bricky
powerful
reference.
mob mindset that allows each orc to be a little bit smarter and unlock some innate abilities and know-how. So it's kind of like how girls go to the bathroom together to unlock their magic woman powers. It should, however, be noted that the color bonuses do still seem to work out. But obviously that's on a much smaller scale of reality warping than making a pipe, a box, and some bomb juice into a slugger or something. So my new proposed misconception is that orcs do in fact have the power to imagine anything into existence with their psychic assault. However, they're just extremely unimaginative and boring. So much like a soulless corporate exec in Hollywood, they just see something that works, makes their own crappy copy, adds like 10% more explosion, and then they gaslight the general public into thinking it's actually good and not just a shitty version of something they loved as a kid. Now, misconception number 2. The Death Corps of Krieg, they're suicidal morons. Now this one, it personally pains me. Guard are my favorite 40k faction, and although the Death Corps aren't my favorite regiment, Cadia number 1, it still hurts to see people portraying one of the galaxy's finest regiments as a bunch of dumb stupid heads. And I pretty much hate everything online regarding the Kriegers, from the shovels to the vaguely German-themed Sabuku. I feel like the memes have kind of ruined the Death Corps for me. Contrary to popular belief, Kriegers do not just off themselves the second they find an opportunity. Their whole shtick is to atone for past sins by giving their lives. This does not mean that they're gonna die for no reason. That's just kind of ridiculous and a waste of the Emperor's time and resources. Now, the Kriegers aren't suicidal per se, rather, they're just really super willing to sacrifice their life if it means benefiting the Imperium and regaining some long-lost honor. They aren't going to blindly charge into a tank or a wall of angry green fellows unless that's what they truly believe will help the Imperium the most. In fact, they're more likely to be more tactical and less wasteful so that they could squeeze as much value as they possibly can from their teensy-weensy mortal lives. Also, this is probably going to piss a lot of people off, but to my knowledge, Krieger have never really used shovels in lore. At least no more than other regiments. I mean, sure, they dig holes to poop in, but that's about it. So instead of these stupid misconceptions, it's my new headcanon that the Kriegsmen are just... they're really clumsy because of their cool masks inhibiting their senses.
Oh my god.
They're often seen as fearless and nigh suicidal by other regiments. But in reality, they just simply can't see the horrors they face, and they blindly bumble around the battlefield until they just so happen
I
to
like
win.
that so much
This
better.
aligns
That's
with the
so
stupid
funny.
Krieg or suicidal memes. It also aligns with the endless sacrifice and their supposed inhuman bravery. All right, misconception number 3.
Wait, what were those guys called? What were the guys with the like medicine masks? I like them. Death Corpse of Krieg? Okay. I like those guys. Oh, okay, okay.
Slaanesh is the god of sex. Not really. As much as we all like sex around here, Slaanesh is actually mostly described as the god of excess
Do we?
and more. However, I can see how this misconception popped up, since often sex and drugs are easy ways to visually convey.
Pronounced cores? Cores? Death Core? The Death Core of Krieg? They can't wait to die. I love
That
them.
idea, and many people do end up doing these things in excess. Obviously not us, since we play Warhammer. But, you know, so what I think happened is that
So
a lot of
true,
people saw
bestie.
those wacky models, you know the ones. They felt a strange tingling in their pants, and then they thought, oh, that's weird. Oh, wait, I get it. Slaanesh is the god of sex. That's why I'm feeling silly in my willy. But that's just not correct. Slaanesh is the god of excess at the end of the day, and while this does often manifest from excess pain or pleasure in the 40k universe, it can really be an excess of anything. Things like obsessive perfectionism or extreme unhealthy dedication to a craft. Me painting minis. Any of those. And this misconception, it unfortunately leads to a few other misconceptions, like the Eldar, they can never have sex or any sort of fun at all. Which, that's pretty wrong, because in most depictions, they're kind of seen as normal people when not fighting. So just remember what the Bible says. You won't get your soul eaten by Slaanesh for banging your wife, but you will if you make banging your life. Profound words right there. So to explain these silly-ass misconceptions,
Next
I
time pick
propose
the
a new
uncensored bot?
silly-ass
Oh, okay, my
misconception.
bad, my
In
bad.
the 40k universe, every single person is canonically so extremely hot that if you have sex even just one time, that's the only thing you could ever think about afterwards. Which, of course, would essentially make the 40k universe into the universe that those funky religious folk who walk around with signs and megaphones already think we live in. Alright, so for misconception number 4, let's move on to another misconception connected to the Eldar. A single space marine, they could take out a whole entire craft world, I tells ya. Nope. To be fair, I do believe this one's mostly due to people not understanding what a craft world actually is. Many people seem to believe that Eldar craft worlds, well, they're just big, fancy spaceships. And while that's technically true, people seem to underestimate the big part of that statement. Craft worlds are absolutely massive. The smallest ones are at least as big as a continent, and the largest ones are said to be near planet-sized.
Oh,
On
shit.
the contrary, a lot of people
fuck.
seem to overestimate the size and power of the average Space Marine chapter. According to Gilliman's special little book, there are roughly 1,000 Space Marines in a standard chapter. And this is certainly a force to be reckoned with, but there's absolutely no way 1,000 Space Marines could take out the average craft world. Nearly every single elf on a craft world is at least a competent warrior, and while the average Eldar Guardian probably can't take out a Space Marine alone, an Aspect Warrior can, a Wraith Guard can, a Farseer can, and so on. If a single Space Marine chapter can't even definitively take over the United States of America, you could fight me on that, they have no shot against an Eldar craft world. Alright, so here's a new misconception to spread to your friends and family. Instead of a Space Marine chapter being able to defeat an entire craft world all by its lonesome, that's just ridiculous. Let's say a single Guard regiment can do it, why not? And I don't mean a single regimental culture like the Cadians or the Cadia. I mean a single regiment, like a single unit of the army. Something like the Cadian 121st or Mordian 8th, for example. I think this would be really funny because other players are already constantly being dunked on by every single other faction in lore. And it also makes the Guard, the best faction, look even cooler. And then if people disagree with you, you could just talk about how strong a Leman Russ battle tank is because, oh, I don't know, an Orc mistook it for the Primarch one day, and then due to psychic chicanery, every single Leman Russ battle tank became the actual Leman Russ Primarch. So, finally, last misconception.
Did you cover your mouth? Kinda. Kinda, sorta. I like close my mouth and kind of lean down a little bit. I'm at home, so I Eh. I forgot to take my allergy medicine, so I'm getting a little stuffy. But I'm supposed to take it in like 30 minutes, so I'll just take it now. The Emperor bless you. The Minotaur chapter could take down. It was interesting to hear about like what people like what the misconceptions are, since I don't have any. Right? Or at least I don't think I do. Not yet.
Misconception number 5. Baneblades were light scout tanks in the dark age of technology. This has got to be one of the stupidest misconceptions in the 40k fandom.
Oh.
I don't care how insanely advanced dark age of technology was. Nobody is going to be using this behemoth as a scout tank. It's as loud as it is big and has a max speed of 15 miles per hour. The only way this thing could ever be considered a scout tank is in the sense that it makes every single enemy into a scout because they'll be spotting your forces from miles away.
Oh my god.
If anything, Dark Age technology humans using a Baneblade as reconnaissance vehicle just makes them look extremely stupid, not really powerful and advanced. So my new misconception is, well, we'll just double down for this one. The Baneblade, it wasn't a scout tank. It was actually the premier luxury sedan of its day. Need to get groceries? Baneblade. Need to take the kids to school? Baneblade. Want to go for a nice family road trip? All right, kids, squeeze into the family Baneblade. In fact, the variants of the Baneblade, like the Fellblade or the Doomhammer, well, those are just clever marketing ploys from the fellas in Detroit so that they could sell you the same vehicle with slight alterations. Large family? Stormlord's your answer. Too much Baneblade traffic on your daily commute? Well, buy a Shadow Sword. Whatever you need, the Baneblade chassis has got you covered. And with that, that's all I got for today. I hope you learned a lot, and well, you can stop posting these tired old memes all over the place.
I like
maybe you can spread these misconceptions, and they could become their own tired old memes one day. And if you like this video, please
on the new
like,
misconceptions. It's pretty funny.
Spread my videos to your closest friends and family.
Craft World. Ghosting. Oh wait, Craft World, Laden, and Shadow Specters, Aspect Warriors, Ghost Theme faction, but without the Terminator skeleton aesthetic Necrons have. Oh, if there's like a video for that positivity, I love your name, by the way. I'd love to know if there's someone who does a good job of talking about them. I don't know if you can post links or not, but Crackduck is so Gucci. Yeah, he's funny. I had a few different people recommend his videos, and he has a whole playlist of his like lore videos. So I thought this would be another good one to jump into. Yeah. Okay. I'm excited for the Sisters of Battle Armor. I don't know. I don't know anything about. You guys tell me the Battle Sisters or something. I don't know anything. Pancreas no work. Revolve. Oh, you're not on YouTube though. They don't exist. I was hoping. Can someone in my Discord? Can someone in my Discord post about something about Pancreas no work Landon video? I'll never remember by the end of this, but I want to check it out later. Anything on the actual tabletop? Nothing on the actual tabletop game yet. This is only... I watched Ricky's Faction Part 1 video, the new one. And then we watched... What did I watch? What did I watch yesterday? Not yesterday. Was it Sunday or Monday? Why can't I remember what I watched? Anyway. Iandin. Oh, oh, right. All the factions. We watched a video talking about all the factions. Goodness gracious. So, yeah. Nothing tabletop yet. We're still dipping our toes. I want to remember some of the names. I want some of the names and stuff to stick a little bit better before I look at like how the game's actually played. So, thank you guys. I'm glad your memory's better than mine. I remembered the content, not what it was called.
So Sisters of Battle, they have to be one of the coolest 40k factions, right? Just a bunch of badass ladies running around with bolters, flamers, and religious fervor. The
I love them.
Powerful anti-vaxxers. However, something I've seen a good amount as of late, where
Thank
people
you,
saying the armor
Rico.
isn't a great design. And by armor, we all know what I'm referring to. But if you don't, I'm talking about the boobs, baby, big old boobies. B-O-B, boobs. This is a battle more like, sister, I have to battle the urge to look at those boobies. Am
Oh
I
my
right?
god.
What the fuck did I write that last night? But anyways, a lot of people, they don't like the Sisters of Battle armor, and for a number of reasons. And so today I kind of just want to delve into that topic and figure out, does the Sisters of Battle boob armor make sense in the context of 40k? And before we get into this, I just want to preface this by saying I'm not a historian or armor expert or anything. I've done my research, but I'm not claiming to be the #1 source on any of these topics. So take what I say with a grain of salt. And if I make any mistakes, please feel free to correct me. But with that out of the way, let's get into it. So I've seen a lot of people criticize the Sisters of Battle armor for a few reasons. And I'll just rip the band-aid off right now. I don't think a lot of those reasons make sense in the context of 40k. And I actually think they have a really good armor design. And before you call me some wild Coomer or something, please allow me to explain why I think that the Sister of Battle boob armor actually makes a lot of sense and is a good design. So, the biggest complaint I see is that boob armor is just stupid because it's not practical. A lot of women in fiction, they wear these boob armors or these other questionable suits of armor, and it really just doesn't make sense as armor. And that's true. The only problem I have with that is that 40k often doesn't have exclusively practicality in mind, if ever. I don't think that this Exarch needs this funky hat to fight better. This captain doesn't need to wear a giant-ass skeleton around his shield to block some bullets better. Magnus, he doesn't need his frickin' titty horns to break the webway and ruin the galaxy by doing quote-unquote nothing wrong. Even the relatively utilitarian guard is led by this dude on a shining golden horse, and don't even get me started on his much cooler predecessor who looked like a mini god emperor with his god-tier drip. Yeah, so practicality isn't really the #1 thing in 40k.
True, I see that.
Historical armor isn't exclusively about practicality. Likely the most well-known example of that is the muscle cuirass. This is a type of armor that was used in ancient times by a few different nations, most notably ancient Rome, having sculpted abs and sick-ass pecs. Those have no purpose other than grip.
Tactical nips.
But there is evidence that these pieces were actually
Tactical nips. Oh my god. Oh my god. It's the tactical nips for me. Holy
used in
shit.
battle. But those aren't even the worst of it. Sir, the enemy
my
forces
God.
are approaching. I don't know if our forces can handle them. We may die today. How many are there? 1,000? No, sir. 10,000? No, less than that, sir. What? 500? Sir, there is one knight approaching. What? Why would we be threatened by one measly gnaw? Oh, dear Lord, help us. That's right. There's real-life armor out there that has a large metal dong sticking out. And let me introduce you to the cod piece. Back in the good old days, the coolest cats on the block, they
the
all wore
cod
these cock-shaped cod
piece.
pieces in order to
Yeah.
be modest about their cock-shaped cocks. Following the modern trends,
was a
this
modesty
epically
thing.
badass piece of intimidation was worn by some rich people who wanted to show off how flippin' cool they were on the battlefield. And, as you might have guessed, these pieces have
Oh my god.
very little practical use in combat. There's even things that are less extreme that show that
That is such
practicality
a-
isn't the only thing
I'm
that's considered when
crying.
making armor. There's tons of
I'm
examples of armors
crying.
with these cool engravings and awesome decorations that really
Hey, bro. What was it called? What was it called? Shit, what was it called? Hey, bro. How big is your tactical gong armor? The cod piece. How big is your cod piece, dude? Is it as demure and cutesy as mine? I don't know, bro. I don't know. It's gotta be demure, but also it's gotta intimidate the opponent at the same time. The cod piece. Man, that's so funny. But yeah, I feel like this is like such a good argument, you know?
really serve no purpose. Many cultures, they just make cool looking armors because, well, they look cool and they're a sign
Yeah.
of power, wealth,
Yeah, true,
or it's just a
true.
cultural norm at the time. And to me, this idea just fits the sisters perfectly. The sisters are the ecclesiarchy's military force, and to the Imperium and the ecclesiarchy, religious fervor is extremely important, and they would obviously wear things that would reflect that. Here's another historical example. Samurai armor, it's one of the coolest looking armors, right? Weeb! Alright, shut up. You know it's true. But
Yeah, their
anyways, one of
hats
the
were
most
really
striking
cool.
details of
Helmets, I
samurai
guess.
armor are the badass masks. You got demons, you got mustaches, you got, I
Yeah.
don't know, something weird. But yeah, these masks, they technically have no practical reason to look like this. They don't help you in battle. And some would argue that it's actually detrimental to have these giant mustaches sticking out of your face, or the extra weight of the demon ornamentation would be detrimental in battle, this and that. But despite that, the masks were quite frequently worn, and it's commonly believed that these masks were worn as intimidation. And some other researchers believe that the warriors may have even thought that these pieces of armor could help ward off bad spirits. Intimidating armor, power of belief, faith, and gaudy
It's
decorations
me, I'm a bad
potentially warding
spirit.
off evil spirits. Does that sound like anyone? Yeah, in 40k, belief literally has power over the force of chaos. For example, in 40k, a passionate stroke of the blade will kill a demon better than a shot taken from a million-man gun line. And Sisters of Battle, they literally ride churches and sing hymns as they slay enemies of the Imperium. They are just as important as a symbol as they are a fighting force. Now you might say, okay, but what does that have to do with boobs? I clicked for the boobs and I want boobs! Yeah, keeping your pants a little longer. I'll get to that soon. But before that, one important aspect of the Adeptus Sororitas is that they are an all-female fighting force. Their femininity is an inherently important aspect of their order and existence. The Sisters of Battle, they came to be the Ecclesiarchy's military force after Mr. Van Dyer decided to have a little oopsies and kill billions, and so the decree passive forbade the Ecclesiarchy from gathering, training, promoting, sustaining, or in any way commanding any force of men under arms. However, due to imperial bureaucracy and a general 40k silliness, a Macbeth-esque loophole gets pulled in which the ecclesiarchs reason that, oh, well, you know, the Sisters of Battle, they're all girls, so that would exempt them from the decree because they aren't men under arms. They're actually women under power armor. But, you know, with this in mind, it does make perfect sense to me that the armor of the sisters would emphasize their femininity along with showcasing religious
makes
iconography.
sense.
The fact that they're female is the reason that the ecclesiarch gets to have a military at all. And so the dreaded boob armor and corsets, they make sense in driving this point home, you know? But even with that, I know there's still going to be some people who say, well, that's not a valid reason. The armor, it's still impractical and it's not befitting of an elite fighting force. And to that, I kind of just raised the question of whether or not real-life downsides of ornamental armor would even apply to the Sisters of Battle. And so what do I mean by this? Well, the most commonly said disadvantages of boob armor, as far as I can tell, are 1. They have poor force distribution, 2. There's more grab points, and 3. It's often heavier. However, taking into account the lore of 40k, I feel like all 3 of these disadvantages are made a bit moot because of a few reasons. So first off, let's address the extra weight. The armor the Sisters of Battle wear is power armor, meaning that not only is it extremely resilient, but it's also powered and enhances strength. And this is important because, although they won't be as reactive as a Space Marine, since they don't have the black carapace, the extra weight of the armor would be pretty negligible. Having a bit of extra boob-shaped plate likely wouldn't meaningfully hinder the Sisters of Battle at all, nor would all their little trinkets and skulls. Alright, now let's address the second issue of force distribution. When criticizing boob armor, many points to the fact that the shape basically funnels strikes into the center of the chest onto a weakened point of the armor. And this is obviously bad because it allows more force to be put onto a vital point. However, I think this is once again mitigated by the fact that sisters are wearing power armor, and also, to a certain extent, the enemies that they face. What do I mean by this? Well, power armor is extremely durable and resistant, so most conventional small arms weapons wouldn't likely do much damage or penetrate the armor at all. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, any of the insane 40k weapons that could penetrate power armor with efficiency, they would likely do so regardless of the relatively small weakness. For example, power weapons in 40k, they basically work because they have an energy field that splits things on a molecular level, and so that means it could cut through pretty much any armor with ease. So having a small weakness wouldn't really change that fact, you know? Alright, lastly, we have the
That's
issue
a
of
fair
grab points.
argument, I
Like
think.
the last few topics, I think that the context of 40k matters. Most enemies that could hit a grab point and knock you down, they would likely just kill you with that strike. And if they couldn't, it's unlikely that they would be able to do meaningful damage even when you were knocked over. For example, if a Khorne Berserker is running down the battlefield, he's likely insta-killing anything he happens to hit. And so, in that regard, it wouldn't matter if a chain axe happened to hit the grab point of the boob armor, because you would just be dead. And on the other hand, if a cultist was able to somehow get his like spear or sword lodged into the cleavage of the boob armor and knock the sister over, it's unlikely that he'll be able to do much meaningful damage before the sister's able to respond with her superior strength, speed, and durability. And so to that extent, the extra grab points of the armor don't really matter all that much. So, to conclude this video, I just want to clarify, I'm not trying to say that the Sisters of Battle armor doesn't create some weaknesses over a more practical design. However, what I am trying to say, and the whole argument of the video, is that I believe there are very valid lore reasons to have things like boob armor. And, in addition, I think there's enough historical and cultural precedent to plausibly believe that the elite fighting force of a future megachurch would wear armor like this.
Yuzi's watching the video.
The weaknesses that the boob armor presents are small enough to justify their existence, if it means that the sisters have a more powerful image and that they send the messages that the ecclesiarchy wants to send. Plus, let's just be honest, most things in 40k exist because they're cool, and that's reason enough for them to exist.
I think that's fair, honestly.
And with that, please let me know what you thought about the video. Do you have any rebuttals? Please post those in the comments. Do you agree with me? Do you think every faction should have boob armor? Whatever you thought, please comment below and let me know. If you like the video, please consider liking,
every faction should have boob armor.
I'm still working on this channel, trying to improve my skills and get better, so if you have any constructive criticisms or advice, those would also be greatly appreciated. Thanks.
How do you guys feel about the boob armor? I feel like it's a fantasy like world, like it's a fictional world, so why do we care so much about boob armor? But the idea of displaying their femininity because of like the lore and stuff makes sense. I don't know. Commission. Oh shit. Easy clicked something. Okay, we're good. We're good. We're back. I don't think I DC'd. We're good. Dude, I would love to be in boob armor. That sounds so cool. You can put me in boob armor. Hold on. I'm just right behind me. I have Yuzu's wet food. Let me give it to her again. Here you go, Yuzu. Yeah. I know she's hungry and wants to eat it because she's like... But she wants her dry food, not her wet food. But I want her to eat her wet food. Yuki. Okay. Yeah, the arguments to me make sense. I would love to see me in boob armor though. Put me in sexy battle sister boob armor. I'd love it. Howling Banshees, do they also have boob armor? It just looks cool. It does just look cool. The weapon strike slip already loses energy. Some of the Blood Angels have boob armor. I see. His Inquisitor video is good. Yeah, we're just going through his Crack Ducks playlist of lore. So we'll see. We'll see how far we get to. But the fall of Cadia is this next video, so. Detectives that can choose a planet. Inquisitor video? Oh, damn, okay. There's an Eldar faction called Howling Banshees. They only make armor for women, so even the men wear boob armor. Low-key love that. Then we can strong weapons, no in between. Yeah, makes sense. Not much precedent IRL. A woman with money wanted to have armor. Yeah. Plus, I don't know. As a woman with boobs, I feel like the boob armor would be a lot more comfortable and like hold. I feel like the boob armor would help hold the boobs in. I feel like, cause okay, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Maybe you don't know about having big boobs, but I've got some pretty big boobas. Okay. And the thing about big boobas, and I go to the gym, I work out, I lift weights, I do burpees and shit. So is that like going to battle? No, but it's a lot of movement. Okay, so having big boobas and a lot of movement, they don't mix well. And I feel like the boob armor cutouts might be more comfortable because then instead of squashing them to your chest and being like a fucking corset, they're like held in something shaped to fit them, so they won't move around and they'll be secure, but they won't like restrict your breathing at all, you know? Aren't your titties intangible? I am a ghost inhabiting a body of a VTuber. So I've got tangible boobas. They're right here. Sounds like you need armor with back support. Yeah, you do. A lot of space between the person and the actual armor, ton of padding, so they wouldn't end even in there. Maybe, but I wear a lot of sports bras and the squishing is really not comfortable. I'm thinking like shaping would be better. The slapping goes crazy. I'm sorry, it was the instinct. How men have boxer briefs. They hug the nuts but not squeeze them, keeping them in place. Yeah. Like squeezing the booba versus like a perfectly molded thing to hold it in place. I don't know, you know? Do you have a video evidence of the boobs? I can't show you guys my flesh. I can't show you my flesh. That would get rid of the illusion. The grandeur. The most flesh I show are my hands, usually. Slanesh enjoys this. Regove has seen me IRL, bitch. Come on now. Regove goes way back. But yeah, okay. The Fall of Cadia. The name sounds familiar. However, I don't remember. Sports bras don't have a wall of metal. True, they don't have a wall of metal, but there's metal. There's fucking metal beams. It's an engineered miracle, okay? It's
Hi
so
friends,
loud.
today we're going to talk about one of the biggest defeats the Imperium has ever faced and one of its most tragic losses. Today we're going to be talking about the Fall of Cadia. The Fall of Cadia was a critical attack on one of the most important Imperial worlds and has had huge impacts on the greater universe. But what led to this defeat? Why is it so important? Who is Cadia and why are they so clumsy? We'll answer all those questions and more in today's video. Let's get started. So for context, Cadia was one of the most important fortress worlds in the whole Imperium. It was extremely important due to its proximity to the Eye of Terror. Cadia was on the only passable route in or out of the Eye of Terror. Because of this, Cadia became a crucial line of defense.
What's the Eye of Terror? Is it like related to the gaping hole? The big portal to the warp, the gaping hole. Okay, so the Eye of Terror is the gaping hellhole to the Chaos Gods. Okay.
In an area known as the Cadian Gate. This gate kept the forces of chaos at bay and prevented a catastrophic invasion. Another significant feature of Cadia were the Cadian pylons. These pylons were large black stone obelisks that were made by the Necrons to weaken psychic energies during the War of Heaven. Luckily for the Cadians, the Necrons were kind of litter bugs and they just left their anti-magic pylons all over the place. And the pylons' anti-magic properties conveniently held the Eye of Terror warp energies back and kept the area manageable. Due to the strategic importance of Cadia, it has long been a target of attack from the forces of chaos. And at first, the Cadians were ill-equipped to handle the constant assaults, so they had to reform their world and culture. Cadians reformed their society and culture in order to better prepare to deal with the constant barrage of chaos forces knocking on their door asking if they'd like to hear a word about their Lord and Savior, four-way Satan. One such reform is that their society became heavily militarized, even by 40k standards. About 72% of their population is under arms, which is almost as much as Texas. The Cadian children are taught to...
Oh my god, that got me. As someone who lives in Texas, that fucking got me. Holy shit.
Strip, assemble, and shoot firearms before learning to read. Also like Texas. Even the civilian aspects of Cadia are militarized. All the houses are heavily armored. Everyone is trained to fight. Social classes are dependent on military rank. The normal civilian clothes are even camouflage and military-esque, which, again, is much like Texas. But this prevalent military culture is very important because it helps make Cadians some of the best warriors in the galaxy. And in addition to societal reforms, Cadians have also reformed the way they built their cities. In the center of each city, there's a mighty fortress called a Khazar. And yes, this is where the Khazar can come from.
Yes! Khazar can #1!
And each Khazar was extremely well defended and designed to hold out against invaders for a very long time. Generally, a Khazar had a void shield, and then a perimeter with many gun emplacements, and then a moat, and then a hefty wall and fortified gate, and then past that, you're finally in the city streets of the Khazar. But wait right there, would-be invaders. The defenses aren't done yet. Once you finally make it inside the Khazars, there's even more defensive measures. On top of the usual stuff like gun emplacements and planetary defense troops, the Khazar streets are intentionally designed to be confusing to invaders. The city layout is made in complex geometric patterns, which means the Cadians basically live in the little puzzles you get at the Applebee's kids menus. But the puzzling layout isn't just because the city planners were too busy killing demons and being the best regiment around. It was actually intentionally done to give Cadians an extra advantage in defenses. The Cadians excel in urban combat, so the confusing layout and heavily defended buildings help them hold out Khazars for far longer than a normal city. And these staunch defenses, they might seem like overkill, and if you think that, number one, you clearly aren't familiar with Warhammer because Overkill is its middle name, and two, you clearly weren't paying attention earlier because you must have forgotten that Cadians live on the border of literal actual hell. And these insane defenses and military culture, along with the Cadian pylons, were extremely important because it allowed the Cadians to reject Abaddon's advances for the 12 days of Christmas. I mean, 12 Black Crusades. And on the 12th day of God Emperor Mus, my true foe sent to me 12 Black Crusades, 11 Black Crusades, 10 Black Crusades. Yeah, that's right, the War Master of Chaos, commander of the forces of evil and all things nasty. It took him 13 tries to take over one planet.
Yes, first try.
And I know that in lore, each crusade weakened the Imperial forces and technically accomplished one step of Abby's grand plan. But still, the alpha male influencers on YouTube would tell me that there's only like 5 steps to becoming a successful millionaire overnight. So surely the Master of Chaos can condense it just a little bit. But now, let's talk about the 13th Black Crusade and finally get into the fall of Cadia. After 12 crusades, Abaddon finally took off his sweatshirt and declared, "This is no longer a circus, this is for serious." And the 13th Black Crusade kicked off when a bunch of space hulks started showing up across the Cadian sector, along with a bunch of Chaos battleships. And leading this vanguard assault was Typhus of the Death Guard. Typhus's plague fleet was causing terror across the sector, and this caused radical cults to form. These cults declared that the Chaos attacks were actually the Emperor punishing them for their sins, and the newfound cults were creating unrest, which led to many rebels against the Imperium. And this political unrest also allowed a preacher to rise in prominence as he proclaimed himself the voice of the Emperor, which further turned once loyal Imperials traitor. Across the sector, there are Chaos forces attacking Imperial worlds, and along with the rebellions, things were looking dire for the Imperial forces. However, despite all this, the planet Cadia remained steadfast against the assaults, and the pylons and Cadian shock troopers were going Insano style, holding back the forces of the warp. However, due to worsening conditions, the Cadian High Command ordered all Cadian regiments to reconvene on their home world. One of the returning regiments was the Volscani Cataphracts. The Cataphracts were revered across the sector as they were made up of many hardened veterans and had many accolades. In order to show their gratitude for the Cataphracts' return, Cadian leadership prepared a welcome party so they could meet them in person. However, the Cataphracts did a little bit of trolling on arrival, and they switched teams, spawn killing the majority of Cadian High Command before the real battle could even begin. All would have been lost if not for the absolute Chad that is Lord Castellan Ursarkar Creed. Creed commanded a masterful counterattack that pushed back the traitors and allowed the Loyalists to regroup their defenses. And due to these heroics, Creed would be promoted to Governor of Cadia, and he would prove massively important in the upcoming war. Creed prepared the defenses, called for Space Marine reinforcements, and sent Khazarkin teams directly into the Eye of Terror in hopes of getting some intel on the upcoming assaults. On the other side of the war, Abaddon and the Chaos Heralds were making big strides. Typhus and Lucius were wreaking havoc, and the Night Lords were doing raids across the sector. Abaddon himself managed to capture 2 Blackstone fortresses. Now this is really important because Blackstone fortresses were massive Eldar warships made in ancient times as a failsafe against the Catan reawakening. As such, these planets were near planet-sized megaweapons that, when fully activated, could break the barrier between the warp and real space by shooting a beam that would make the Death Star look like a Nerf gun. Abaddon having 2 under his control would prove to be a major issue. And so finally, after all the pre-gaming, Abaddon finally launched his attack on Cadia proper. He opened with a humongoid orbital bombardment and sent, in technical terms, a buttload of Chaos Space Marines, Demons, and Titans to assault the planet. Aided by the Space Wolves, though, the Cadians fought hard against the Legions. The Cadians held the forces of Chaos in a deadly stalemate, which, again, goes to show just how badass the Guard Boys really are. And in orbit, the Imperial Navy was also getting some dubs, as they managed to drive Abaddon's forces back into Cadian. This naval victory broke the Chaos blockade and opened the way for reinforcements, including the entirety of the legendary battle fleet Gothic. However, the Imperials reallocating their defenses to Cadia allowed Chaos forces to attack other Imperial worlds. On these worlds, everyone's favorite little guy, Erebus, summoned warp storms and demons. As if the forces of hell weren't enough, things were made worse by the encroaching Tyranid and Orc forces joining in on the fray, along with rumors of a demon Primarch showing up. However, despite the overwhelming odds, Creed led a counter-assault along with the White Scars, and eventually more Space Marine chapters arrived, including the Blood Angels, the Dark Angels, Black Templars, and Imperial Fists. Since there were so many best-selling chapters and named Space Marines, it looked as though Abaddon's crusade would fail yet again. After many victories, the Imperial forces thought the worst was behind them, and they even made plans for victory parties. However, everyone knows it's unwise to emote before you secure the Vicroy, and unfortunately for Cadia, the worst was yet to come. Up in the skies, the space chat from earlier, Admiral Quarren, detected a large Chaos Armada led by the Blackstone Fortress, the Will of Eternity, that was commanded by Abaddon himself. The Imperial fleet was
Not to disrupt this, but my headset's dying. Let me replace the battery. Hold on. I had to move my thingy up here on top of my tower, and I gotta get my battery and swap it out and put this one back in. Ow! Ow! I got it. Okay, sorry. We're back.
Was quickly destroyed and the Chaos forces encroached on Cadia. Knowing something was awry, Kree tried to unify the Imperial forces into a more coherent army that could better repel the heretics. However, he was ultimately unsuccessful as the other Imperials all had their own agendas and remained somewhat disjointed. Not being able to pull from the anime power of friendship would prove to be a huge detriment to the Imperials in the upcoming battles. But it wasn't all doom and gloom, as there were still Imperial victories and even more named characters showed up to help out. Belisarius Cawl, with the aid of the Harlequins, activated even more pylons, while Saint Celestine manifested on the raised battlefields and wrecked shit. Even the Necrons joined in, as Trajan the Infinite was impressed by the huge steel balls of the Cadians, since they reminded him of his own steel balls, when they weren't literal steel balls. So the Necrons, they secretly used death marks to aid the Cadians. While things were looking a bit up, Creed commanded a Space Marine force to assault the Will of Eternity directly, and the Marines were able to penetrate the fortress. However, they were unable to kill Abaddon. Planetside, the Chaos Forces made their way to the critical Khazar Craft. These Chaos Forces were making advances, but they were mostly held back by the Khazarkin, who were killing Space Marines at an impressive rate considering they're just regular humans. After much bloodshed, the Chaos Commander, Urk Rathos, ascended to demonhood and made it to the Null Array that was holding back further demonic incursion. However, Saint Celestine emerged to engage the Demon Prince in an epic duel and banished him. But before banishment, Earth Rakos was able to destroy the Null Array, which allowed Abaddon to finally shoot his Blackstone Fortress Kamehameha. Luckily for the Imperials, though, before Abaddon could activate his Rage Art, it was revealed that a large Space Wolf force remained hidden on the Blackstone Fortress, and they launched a massive counterattack within the ship itself. Then, to make things worse on Abby's big day, the Legion of the Damned Marines manifested, and they helped the Space Wolves destroy his Chaos forces. All would have been lost for the Chaos forces if not for Abaddon arriving in his massive plot armor and pushing back the Wolves and the Damned. However, once again, Abaddon's parade was rained on when he realized, it's a trap! And the Imperial Fist Fortress Monastery, the Phalanx, showed up to blow its load all over the Will of Eternity, disabling Abaddon's trump card. Abaddon teleported away like little nerd, and the Imperials were once again able to regroup and prepare a counterattack. In their desperations, the Imperials officially allied with Trajan the Infinite, so Cawl and his new skeleton buddy plan to amplify the pylons in order to push back the chaotic forces. Unfortunately for them, while they were strategizing, Abaddon found their location, and he personally came planetside with his besties to put an end to the Imperials. Breaking through the defenses, he approached Creed and Jar and Kel. Kel sacrificed himself to allow Creed to escape. And Kel's death was actually pretty badass, as he was shit-talking Abaddon until the very end, saying how he's a poo-poo loser guy who needs to use god weapons to kill mere humans and this and that. I will kill all of your friends. I will destroy your planet. Cadia will fall. You are a disgraced godsman. How can you hope to stop me and my armies?
Damn.
After killing the Color Sergeant, Abaddon made his way to Colin Trajan. But before he could fight the science nerds, Kree came back for revenge with a bunch of Australians. And at the same time, Trajan opened his Tesseracts to summon an army of his Pokemon. Trajan's army was led by a Heresy-era named Ultramarine, so you know he was bringing the big guns. After getting his shit kicked in by the Vostroyans, Khazarkin, Custodes, Space Marines, and Trajan's living Funko Pops, Abaddon teleported away yet again after Celestine landed a decisive blow, and the Cadian pylons were about to be reactivated. Ugh, the keep on stopping me!
Yuki.
How can I kill this stupid planet?
Hey.
Sir, excuse me. I have looked into the archives and I found a tactic that some villains pulled in the ancient time of September 11th.
Oh.
Yeah, so Abaddon basically used his Blackstone Fortress to pull a 9/11 on Cadia. He used his flagship to push the Blackstone Fortress into the planet, and the impact caused massive destruction, and the Imperial forces were forced to evacuate. The impact also destroyed many of the pylons, so the warp was able to fully envelop the doomed planet. Creed valiantly held the line with his personal regiment so that as many Cadians as possible could escape. Celestine was super powered from all the warp energy and was wrecking shit per usual. And even the Eldar stepped in using the webway and helped some Imperials, including Call and Inquisitor Greyfax, escape the forces of the Black Legion. But in the end, Abaddon was finally successful, and Cadia had tragically fallen. Now that Cadia was lost, the Eye of Terror was able to widen, and it tore the galaxy asunder with the Great Rift. This divided the galaxy into the Imperium, and the more shitty Imperium, the Imperium Nihilus. The 13th Black Crusade launched the Imperium into an age of darkness. But all was not lost for the Imperium.
Damn.
Shortly after the fall of Cadia, Call, Greyfax, Celestine, and Yvraine were able to resurrect Primarch Rubuti Guilliman. Guilliman authorized the Primaris and led the Indominus Crusades to reclaim a lot of lost territory, especially in the Imperium Nihilus. As for the Cadians, around 3 million escaped off-planet, and Creed was taken by Trazyn as a party favor. The 3 million Cadians, along with the Cadians who couldn't make it to their homeworld, began to repopulate on new worlds, and the Cadian culture remained strong. Additionally, since the Cadians were such a respected and efficient regiment, many other Guard regiments had already adopted much of their culture and tactics for themselves. Guardsmen across the galaxy used Cadian equipment and doctrines, so while their home may be lost, the culture would never truly die. In that way, it's true that the planet broke before the Guard did, and Cadia truly stands. And with that, that's the fall of Cadia. Thank you everyone who watched this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. The fall of Cadia was one of the most crucial and epic moments in 40k. I really enjoyed researching and making this video. And I'd also like to thank anyone who's recently subscribed. I didn't think we would hit 100 so quickly, let alone 300, so I can't express my gratitude enough, and I really hope this channel continues to grow, because I really love making these silly little videos. And as always, if you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe, and consider sharing it. Thank you very much.
Yuki. Sorry, my cat is now in the way. Yuki, what's up? Yuki, do you want to be involved in Warhammer 40k? Do you have opinions? What faction do you like so far? Oh. What? Hey now. Hey. Okay. Ow. Huh. He's gonna go fight with Yuzu now. And by fight, I mean play. She doesn't give a fuck. She rolls over. Sorry. Damn, I see why the fall of Cadia is such a powerful story in the lore. Like, they were just regular people and they did all that. And what was that big Abaddon? Abaddon? More like Pussy Dawn, am I right? I actually hated that. Because I don't really think pussy is an insult, but... Anchoring bias. Players contributed significantly to the outcome. Huh. Nowadays... Wait, so how did players influence the lore back then? What does that mean? The audiobook is incredible and makes you cry. Aww. Pre-retcon ending with Chaos winning on Cadia, but Imperials winning in space, so it was a stalemate. Abaddon, the despoiler. Got him. It was a big lore shakeup. Yeah, I can see this being like a super powerful Hell's Reach fan animated movie. Ooh. Huh. Okay. Those were the results of the players submitting their battle reports? Oh. So players submitted battle reports from when they played like the tabletop game, like just randomly, and they would submit it, and then GW looked at... I keep forgetting their names, so I literally just call them GW. GW looked at like what people submitted and decided that Abaddon Abaddon would win. You can participate in official tournaments, submit your results. Oh, that's really cool though. The fact that everyone came to, yeah, the fact that like everyone was involved is crazy. Everyone calls it GW? Okay. I just figured it's almost easier to say Games Workshop instead of GW, but... Huh. Wow. That's really cool that official tournament results would influence the lore. I mean... Sounds like they did cool things back then. G-dubs. G-dubs at the B-dubs? Okay, sorry. Anyway. Game pitches? Should I skip this one? Game pitches? Do we care about game pitches? We could watch a different one. It'll show you how the game looks. Oh, okay, okay. We'll watch it then. Huh. Real battles that happened during the fall of Cadia. It's really cool, to be honest.
Hi friends, bad news. Here at Crack Duck, I suffered major budget cuts, and so since the show is broke now, I'm pivoting into being a gaming channel. That's right, no more 40k, only video games. The youth of today, they just don't care about these silly ass board games. They only care about the Fortnites and the Roblox, so that's what it's all about here at Crack
What
Duck.
is that a picture of?
Of course, I'm just kidding. One, I'm a college student, so I'm always broke. And two, my love for Warhammer, it'll never die. Never. But today we are talking about video games. And 40k has some pretty awesome video games. But I can make better ones. So today I'll pitch you 5 video game ideas, and GW, feel free to hire me after hearing these banger pitches.
Okay, he's pitching ideas, so we'll skip it and we'll watch the next one. Influences.
Hi, friends. The Guard is my absolute favorite.
Influences for iconic Imperial Guard regiments. Okay, the boomers in terms of lore takes. I mean, I'm a boomer, so I think I would have a boomer take, but I just don't know enough yet, I guess. Plus, I guess maybe it also depends on when you learn or when you get into it and the status of the lore at the time you get into it. Because I feel like it's like a... It's like... Not recency bias, but something like that, where like the first experience you have is gonna be your favorite or something, you know? She's a ghost. Nah. Yeah.
Favorite faction in all of 40k.
Imperial Guard.
I just
I'm trying to remember who the Imperial Guard are. They were one of the factions, but which number guy was the Imperial Guard for? Which guard? Or was the Imperial Guard for the Emperor? Is the Imperial Guard just the regular soldiers? Oh, okay. It's just the regular human. Okay. I was forgetting. Thank you. Yuzu, why are you back there? You're gonna turn off a monitor. I already know it. Yuzu likes to go. She likes to go behind the monitors, and she'll always end up stepping on a cable. And it'll turn a monitor off. Okay. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna hold on. Let me give her this toy she likes. Would you like to play with the butterfly? Yeah, I know you like the butterfly. We'll give her the butterfly. She wants to play with her mouse.
just really love the idea of humanity standing up against and overcoming any challenges the universe throws at them. Be it horrific aliens or literal hellspawns, the Guard are able to face foes far, far more mighty than themselves. And another cool aspect of the Guard are the diverse regiments. Not only do these look super cool, but they also strengthen the theme of the Guard. Each regiment has a myriad of influences, both fictional and real, and as a whole, the Guard really represent all the cultures of humanity coming together to kick some alien ass. I just think that the Guard's constant plight against superior foes and overwhelming odds is so relatable to the human condition, and really the Guard represent us. The Space Marines might be the poster boys of 40k, but the Guard is you and me. And all of that
Yeah.
Independence Day inspirational human stuff was to segue into today's topic. I thought it'd be really interesting to look into the influences of some of the most iconic Guard regiments. I'll be looking into the lore and aesthetic of a few Guardsmen and then present some of the influences I was able to find, both historical and from pop culture and fiction. Do keep in mind, I'm not a historian, but I will try my best to keep all of my information factual, and let's get into it. So first off, let's start with the internet's favorite Guard regiment, the Death Corps of Krieg. The Death Corps are masters of siege
Death
tactics
Corps
and
of
attrition
Krieg.
warfare. They often
Wait, sorry. I feel like my eyes are doing weird things. Hold on. Pause, pause, pause. They're like squinty. Why are they so squinty? No, I guess they're okay. Sorry. So the Krieg, the core of Krieg, the core of Krieg.
fight in trenches and use their overwhelming numbers in siege regiments to destroy
Holy
enemy
shit.
defenses at all costs. Additionally, they make
Okay.
heavy use of artillery barrages and tank regiments.
Uh-huh.
They're excellent warriors, and they're said to be one of the best, if not the best, Guard regiment in the entire galaxy. Death Corps are defined by their extreme willingness to sacrifice themselves for the cause. And this does not mean that they're suicidal. With the trench warfare angle and their general aesthetic, the Krieg are heavily inspired by World War I. What? Many battles of the First World War were miserable battles of attrition where soldiers
Yeah.
would slowly advance through battlefields and utilize vast trenches for defense. Furthermore, on the Western Front of World War I, there's the idea of the cult of offensive, in which many military strategists believe that an overwhelming offense would be able to overtake any defense. This idea led to the huge casualty rates of World War I and are very reminiscent of the Krieg combat doctrines. Mass infantry assaults with huge casualties are also infamously reminiscent of the Russian war tactics. Also, the silly ass shovel memes come from how in World War I, soldiers would use melee weapons to fight charging opponents, including trench clubs, bayonets, and yes, shovels. However, this doesn't mean that they're all using shovels as their primary weapon. That's just ridiculous. And then culturally, the Krieg are a bunch of antisocial, vat-grown freaks who like to hide their face. So in that regard, I guess it would be based on me.
Oh no.
I made myself sad. There's also the nuclear apocalypse thing going on for them. Cold War anxieties of a nuclear holocaust were fully realized on the great world of Krieg, and they presently live in underground bunkers and stuff. And I know there's a lot of fiction about underground nuclear bunkers, but I just watched the show and I've been on a bit of a Fallout kick, so I'm going to say that's what influenced the Kriegers. Either that or Hans Moleman, king of the mole people. The culture of atonement is also a somewhat common theme in fiction, where characters feel the need to atone for their sins of their ancestors or religiously devote themselves to a cause. Then, on an aesthetic level, Kriegers have many elements of different World War armies. Their combat uniform is basically one-to-one with French soldiers, and then their helmets are German style.
Oh.
And finally, to me, their
That's
gas
cool.
mask looks most similar to the British small box respirator due to the,
Yeah.
small box. It can also be inspired by the German GM-24 mask from World War II. In addition to their uniforms, the Krieg weapons and vehicles also have a more antiquated aesthetic than most other regiments. For example, the Lucius pattern lasgun has a rifle grip that's unlike the more common pistol grips of 40k guns. And it's also said to have a lower rate of fire, making it resemble older rifles even more. Alright, next up, bust out the Fortunate Son, because we're going to the jungles, baby. The Cadia Jungle Fighters are a formidable guard regiment that hail from the
Jungle
jungle death bowl, the
Fighters.
Catachan. The Jungle Fighters are masters of jungle warfare,
Oh.
obviously, and excel in guerrilla strikes and asymmetric warfare. The Catachan are stone-cold badass muscle men who love
Like-
bandanas and knives. They're excellent warriors, and they're said to be one of the best, if not the best, guard regiment in the entire galaxy.
Wow, wow,
Now,
wow.
the obvious influence of Catachan are 80s action heroes mixed with some Vietnam War elements.
I was gonna say,
The
yeah,
most iconic
Vietnam
Catachan
War.
model is literally a mix of Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, and Kurt Russell. Their aesthetic heavily resembles the characters from movies like Predator, Rambo, and even Aliens. And then the attitude and personality of Catachan are also reminiscent of action movies. The Catachan are often big dicking each other, trying to prove who's the most badass. And this is a lot like in the movies and even real life, where stars like Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone would compete with each other to see whose muscles could be the most epically roided. And then another trope in some of these movies is like a nerdy outsider guy who tags along with the team and is generally disrespected and disliked. Catachan often disrespect authorities and outsiders, so much so that when the crew eat the Catachan, they start disrespecting their leaders and wearing bandanas, which is pretty funny and kind of insane. Another way that movie tropes in history influence the Catachan is on the planet of Catachan itself. In adventure movies and action movies, a hostile, exotic land is a very common place for adventurers to go. Things like Skull Island and Lost World feature exotic fauna and flora that are very hostile and will probably eat you. And this has very likely inspired the insane residents of Catachan. This trope was born because jungles in real life are very dangerous and often relatively unexplored. Not only are there the natural dangers, but during conflicts like the Vietnam War, combatants familiar with the jungles would set many traps and ambushes. And like the memes say, the trees are speaking Vietnamese, and on Catachan, the trees are speaking murderese, because, you know, they'll murder and eat you. Technically speaking, the Catachan often employ guerrilla stealth strikes. They like laying traps, and they also favor close combat. The jungle guerrilla fighting style and trap making is very similar to Viet Congs, who opposed the Americans in the Vietnam War. The Viet Congs had tunnel systems, booby traps, and were experts in navigating the jungles. However, the Catachan also has some strategies that aligned with Americans in the Vietnam War. In Vietnam, Americans heavily utilized bombing runs, napalm strikes, and ground teams to kill the North Vietnamese. Likewise, the Catachan also used mechanized supports and flamers to clear out jungles and then deploy infantry squads to eradicate enemies. So now finally, let's talk about my favorite regiment, the Cadian Shock Troopers. They're an elite guard regiment that is very professional and often serves as a template for other regiments to aspire to. They utilize combined arms tactics and are a very versatile regiment, fighting very well on nearly every war front. They're excellent warriors, and they're said to be one of the best, if not the best, guard regiment in the entire galaxy. Cadians are mostly a mix of North American soldiers, both Canadian and United States, with some other flavorings mixed in. A big inspiration for the Cadian Shock Troopers is the Canadian Shock Troopers. Wait a minute. Contrary to the syrup-drinking, friendly hockey personas that the Canadians have today, the Canadians of the World Wars were actually pretty scary and very effective soldiers. One notable tactic they employed in the First World War was utilizing the aforementioned shock troops. In the time of trench warfare, their shock troops used combined arms tactics to flank and break enemy defenses. Cadians often utilize shock tactics, combined arms doctrines, and other modern military strategies. Along with the combined arms approach, Cadians are also trained in smaller squad formations, guerrilla warfare, and urban combat. This is reminiscent of modern American doctrines as well as other contemporary militaries. The professional military theme is also similar to Americans, as our military is very well funded and equipped for squad combat on an infantry level. Another cultural influence for the Cadians may be Spartan legends and stories. Although historians debate if Spartans were actually the elite warrior society that people perceive them as, the stories and general perception of Spartans is that of a meritocratic warrior society. Cadians have clear parallels to this archetype, as most Acadian society is militarized, Cadian children are trained before they could even read, and moving up in Cadian leadership is mostly merit-based. Additionally, the Cadians holding the line at the Cadian Gate is very reminiscent of the legendary 300 holding the line at the Battle of Thermopylae. So the Cadians are basically the love child of the two northmost American countries, who was then kidnapped and raised in Sparta. No wonder they're my favorite. Then, on an aesthetic level, the Cadians really embody the generic sci-fi Marine look. They look quite similar to some iconic sci-fi troopers of the 80s and 2000s-ish.
I see it.
Movie Starship Trooper, Mobile Infantry, and Marines from Halo. I'm sure there's more, but those were the ones I found most significant. I personally think that they look most similar to the Halo Marines, with the blocky armor and large pauldrons. However, many people say that they look most like Starship Troopers. And then branching off of that, Cadians also resemble these troops' personalities to a degree. Cadians are often said to have a gallows humor about them. This is similar to the Marines in those movies and games I mentioned, where they'll often banter with each other or make jokes about how they're all going to die. Cadian, more like K-Dyin, am I right? Yeah, you can shoot me now? And then, if you had any doubts about Cadians being space Americans, I just have two things to say. Number one, the Cadians basically had a Space 9/11 pulled on them. Cadia stands as essentially the guard equivalent of never forget. And then two, the Cadians have a great love for their homeworld.
Holy shit.
They see themselves as the best of the best, better than anybody else. Totally proving that they're space Americans.
Very American.
And with that, let's close it off. If you guys like this video, I'd love to make it into a series. It was really interesting to research both the fictional and real-life historical influences of these three regiments.
That's cool.
Unfortunately, I was only able to cover the three most popular regiments. However, I would love to do a similar deep dive
the Cadians,
into
what was the other one?
Bostonians or Steel Legions or whatever. And so, let's do that stupid YouTuber thing and say, oh, if this video gets 2,000 likes, I'll continue the series. Secret, I'll probably continue the series eventually anyways. I love the Guard, and I absolutely love all the regiments. I really wish GW would bring back the regiment models. Those were some of my favorites of all time.
Whoa. Wait, go back. So are these guys Catachan? They give off the vibes. Or is this something else? Ooh, this man. You didn't like what he said? Canadians were inventing war crimes? I like it. It's going good. We're getting little bits of some other lore. So, Catachans. When am I cosplaying a Catachan? I don't know. Is there a Catachan live 2D rigged asset? I like how they all have some distinct look. Is this the Kriegs? They have the masks. These guys make me think of that stupid movie. That stupid movie that has the song in it that goes America, fuck yeah. That's what this guy makes me think of right here. The shirtless are the Catachan. The silly houts are the Vostroyans. Oh, yeah. I see the Russian influence. Oh, is this the Steel Legion? Because their uniforms are yellow? Oh, I see. Yeah, but what movie is it from? Team America. There you go. How do I forget the name of that? Kriegs are the drab green. Are these the Kriegs? Who are the, like, what is this? Like a British kind of look? A British kind of? Or the guys with the really tall hats? Bottom left is the Talon Desert Raiders. Okay, yeah. Their armor looks like Desert Raider vibes. I see that. Movie was a pain in the ass to make. I have no doubt about that. Bottom right. Morty and Iron Guard. Huh. Oh, you're right. It is French. I see the... I like how distinct they all are. Yeah. Like you can see they all have their purpose and their region, like where they will fight. So. Oh, Krieg models are new. Newish.
And with that, please let me know if you enjoyed this video. Let me know what your favorite guard regiment is and why. Tell me if I missed any other influences and why I'm a silly goose. And as always, please like, comment, subscribe, and consider sharing my videos to all your besties. Thanks.
How auxiliaries and their high school stereotype? Oh, this sounds like it'll be funny. Could you kind of replace Steel Legion a little bit? Going to look okay. Huh. That they fight better in certain environments. Yeah, it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Friends, pack your apple juice and hiking boots. We're going on a safari. Today we're going to look at all the fun, silly little Tau auxiliaries. One of the coolest aspects of the Tau are their auxiliary species. Unlike pretty much every other 40k faction, the Tau aren't mega on-site racists, so they actually do recruit other species to their empire. So today I'll go through them, give a brief little description.
I'm turning it down just a tiny little bit. Tiny little bit. I don't want it to peek into red like me.
And then to spice things up, I'll assign these species high school cliches and stereotypes based on their traits or quirks. As an example, I'll quickly put the Tau caste into stereotypes. Fire caste, jocks. Water caste, cute popular girls. Earth caste, nerds. Air caste, the cool mysterious kid. And then finally, the ethereals would be TikTok, since they appeared seemingly out of nowhere and probably mind control the 4 other castes. Oh, and one more thing before we start, I just want to say that some of these species don't have that much lore, but I will say as much as I can.
Okay.
And I might also have to imagine what some of these look like, so half this video will kind of just be me making fan art, I guess. But that being said, let's start off with the best auxiliary in the Tau Empire. These dudes are often seen as zealous, somewhat barbaric, but otherwise able to operate the advanced Tau tech, making them very useful allies to the Empire. And you might have guessed.
So where are the Tau? Where are the Tau from? Are they a specific faction? Are they like under a specific Primarch or something? Or who are the Tau? They're their own faction. Who's their leader? Tau. Oh, they're a new faction. So they're a small upstart empire. Okay. So they're not related to like the factions and the Primarchs. They're like they're their own thing on a planet somewhere, because they don't have warp travel. Okay. Tau's an alien faction that recruits every willing race. Okay. Huh. Their leaders are the ethereals. So other people have stumbled upon the Tau, and the Tau have recruited them? They do have human on their army too. Yeah, it said that they'll recruit anyone. They don't care like what race you're from or whatever. Sorry. A lot of people hate the Tau because of how they play on tabletop. When they were made, they were good guys and everyone hated that. Oh, they wanted them to have like they wanted it realistic where like no one is like a perfect good guy kind of thing. And they have human defected. So are they like on a particular side? Chaos versus what? The Imperium, right? Unless it stretches out. Yeah. I'm sure I'll learn a little bit more, but I wanted just a little bit of backstory from chat. So mind control, big brother thing. The more peaceful, but they will wreck shop when push comes to shove. Tau fight anyone to protect themselves. Okay, so they're just like protecting them. They're protecting their own planet and people or whatever. Okay. So they haven't been involved yet with like everything else going on. Their souls are too small. They don't have psychers. Oh, okay. Trying to build their own empire. Okay. They do expand, but not much since they can't travel fast. Okay. Huh. Small connection. Okay. Sizable. So they got a couple planets, but they can't like warp travel. Okay. I got it. Thanks, guys.
But this is Guvesa, or the human helpers of the Tau. That's right, human supremacy, baby. Even in the Tau, humans are supreme. Suck it, Xeno scum. The Guvesa are just Imperials that the Tau recruited, be it wayward guardsmen, deserters, or just Imperial citizens who were abandoned after lost battles. These humans, they swap their zeal for the Emperor for zeal for the greater good. And Tau reception to humans kind of varies. Some trust them and like them quite a bit, while others fear that they're too zealous, too barbaric, and too dangerous. Too zealous and dangerous? Sure. But some of the Tau forces, they decided, we aren't 40k enough as a faction. So why don't we sterilize and forcefully re-educate these humans? That'll put us on the list. And
Oh my
here's
God,
some fun little
Yuzu.
facts about the Guvesa. Number one, some of them are actually allowed to continue to worship the Emperor, as long as they continue to serve the greater good. And this is somewhat of a common trend among the auxiliaries, as the Tau Empire allows the species to keep their side hoes as long as the greater good is their main bay.
Their
And then,
side
fact number
hoes.
2, some Guvesa, they actually shave their head and wear blue face in order to integrate themselves into
Oh.
the Tau society and ingratiate themselves with the Tau commanders.
Oh
And then
boy.
finally, this one's super cute, but I'm not entirely sure it's true since I only saw it one time. But Guvesa squads are apparently called clusters, and in these clusters, they refer to their squad mates with a number and then friends. So just like imagine them about to get eaten by some Dark Eldar or something horrible, and they're just like, "Oh, sixth friend, we're gonna die." Rip. Also,
Oh my
I
God.
guess that would mean a Guvesa orgy would be called a clusterfuck. So with all that, I would say the Guvesa they're kind of like the transfer kid that's really outgoing and most people like, but low-key, people are kind of worried he might start a fight at any moment. He loves his new school, but he's also still a little bit too much into his old school's football team for some people's tastes. Next up, let's talk about something similar to humans. The Demiurge are just Vote's hand that the Tau misidentified. They're primarily traitors to the Tau Empire rather than true warriors. They also have some advanced technologies that they share with the Tau Empire.
Oh.
As dwarves, these technologies are mostly related to mining, manufacturing, and that SpongeBob long, tall, and handsome machine. The Demiurge are that kid who's like a little bit weird,
Demiurge.
he's short, he's awkward, but he sells everybody fidget spinners or whatever the kids are into now. And like these dudes are nerds. They're probably in the robotics club with the Earthcast.
Oh
But
my
the
God.
cool kids like him because he sells them the vapes. But speaking of manufacturing, another species that works with the Earthcast to manufacture weapons and ships is the Greet. The Greet are an invertebrate species that hail from an ocean world. On
The
their homeworld,
Greet.
the Tau built floating factories, kind of like the
Whoa.
Camoans, I would imagine. The Greet, they were annexed into the Empire because of their manufacturing capabilities, and they made vessels called line ships and stealthers. The line ships had slipstream FTL capabilities, but no warp protection, so the Greek crews were promptly, brutally murdered by demons.
Oh no.
So kids, always remember to use protection when entering, wormholes. And again, these dudes would totally
Oh my
be
God.
nerds. However, these ones would definitely get bullied for being spineless little weirdos who most likely smell like fish. So tangentially related to manufacturing, a lot of auxiliaries are pretty much only notable for their ships or void navigation capabilities. So I'll quickly cover those. First off, the Ostens Council is a group of various species that serve as mercenaries for the Tau. They make ships called winged discs, which honestly sounds a lot like a semicircle to me, but who am I to say? And these guys, they're once again probably nerds, but they do have their own little nerd group, so the other kids low-key think they're kind of cool.
They're like the
Then
student
the Nermati
council.
would be another species that not much is known about other than their use of worm ships. And honestly, I don't know that much about these guys, but based on what I could find, I'll just say they're that weird little kid who's like looking for worms and shit in the quad planters.
There you
Next
go.
up, Geatrix are an allied species that's notable for their navigation and skills with space travel. The Geatrix would be like that kid who got their driver's license early and are by default one of the cool kids. But also, everybody wants them to take them places, so, you win some, you dim some. Next up, related to
win
spaceships
some,
and
you
space
dim
travel,
some.
Mikasa
I've
are a
never
species
heard
who
that.
love to travel across the void, and they make the Tau some scout ships. They were also the first species added to the Tau Empire. And the Mikasa, they're pretty cool since they're literally psychic space bears. They're described as having Earth sign appearance, and along with that, they have
Whoa.
quills, stubby little limbs, avian skulls, and no eyes. They're physically weak, but they make up with that with their psyker abilities, which is very helpful to the Tau since they themselves do not have psyker abilities. And this highlights one of the cool aspects of the auxiliaries. The various species help bolster the Tau Empire and fill in the Tau's weaknesses.
Yeah.
Furthermore, due to their psychic abilities, the Tau Empire tries to keep them hidden from the Imperium of Man. Also, fun cute fact, they float around in magic space bubbles.
I love
The
them.
Nigasar are definitely nerdy, awkward weirdos, but luckily for them, they were friends with the cool kids long before high school, so they kind of get their protection. Think
I love
2002
them.
Peter Parker and Harry Osborn. Now, another weakness of the Tau that
They're
is filled
so
in by
cute.
auxiliary species would be their infamously bad melee abilities. So, like those horrible loser IRL streamers, the Tau brings some muscle in case they ever get into a fist fight. And these next few species, they would all definitely be on the football team and would probably beat you up. The The most well-known of these melee species is the Kroot, and honestly these bird dudes could have a video of their own, they're very cool, but the general gist of them is that they're a species of tall, powerful avian hunters. Along with being proficient melee fighters, the Kroot are known for their ability to alter their physiology by eating species and inheriting their genetic traits.
Whoa.
The leaders of the Kroot are called Shapers, and they try to shape their peers and make sure that they inherit traits beneficial to the species, don't hit evolutionary dead ends, and don't eat forbidden species like Tyranids.
Why
With their
can't you eat
Kirby-like
forbidden
ability, they've gained
species?
things like
Just
psychic
like
abilities
Kirby.
from
Oh my
Eldar,
god.
muscle mass and greenness from orcs, and my favorite, issues with authority and a penchant for red bandanas from the Catachan. The various critters that the Kroot work with,
I
like
love
the Kroot
that.
Hounds or Krootoks, they're actually Kroot that hit evolutionary dead ends. Since their mutation caused them to lose too much intelligence and sentience, they're basically relegated to helper pets. And then the Kroot, they might be athletic, but they're probably also a weird theater kid who keeps on trying to change his personality. Another species that specialize in melee are the Thraxans, who are bug-like aliens with multiple arms. Other than that, not much is known. And these would just be kind of like those forgettable jocks who hang out with the more popular jocks in movies, you know. Then the Talarian dog soldiers are a reptilian species that look like, you guessed it, cats. Of course, I'm just kidding. They obviously look like dogs.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
for some reason, one of the places I read said that they're known for having knees and ribs. A weird thing to be known for, but I guess at least they got something going for them. Who am I to judge? And another cool thing is that they're said to be obsessed with honor. And also, they apparently almost joined the Red Corsair Renegade Space Marines. But the Marines thought that their stupid little rituals were stupid, and that led to a little altercation that ended up with a bunch of dead dogs and a bunch of angry readers.
Oh,
These
shit.
dog soldiers, they would be like that one kid who's super loyal to his friends and will constantly get into fights on their behalf. They'd also be like that kid we all knew who had knees and ribs. You know who I'm talking about. Next up on the slate, the Morelians are a species with soldiers called the Deathsworn who serve as mercenaries. Mostly for the Tau, but they have worked with other things, most notably the Alpha Legion. Other than that, the only thing that seems to really be known is that Dark Eldar particularly like the skin of Morelian kids for robes. So I guess they're Dalmatians of the Tau auxiliaries. And then this would just be the kid who kind of gets along with everyone, and you're kind of surprised to see what friend groups he'll be in. Also, all the fan art I've seen makes them look like emos, so I guess they're also bald emo kids. Another mercenary faction that helps the Tau, and strangely enough the Alpha Legion, are the Galg. Now these guys are actually quite interesting, and they might be a contender for my top 3 filthy, heretical, and abhorrent, but also kind of cool Tau auxiliary list. And the Galg, they're these weird tentacle aliens that live in underground palace cities. They were a relatively peaceful species that weren't really notable in any way, but they created a utopian society where no one really suffered.
Wow.
Then the Tau came along, and they saw them being perfectly content and were like, that's stupid. You idiots are all too busy living a perfect life to see the greater good and how it can improve your stupid perfect life. And so they conquered the planet, and the Galg, quote unquote, happily gave up their perfect lives to find purpose in the greater good. And some Galg, however, they didn't buy into the Tau blue Kool-Aid, and they became freedom fighters and mercenaries. This faction of Galg are the ones who assisted the Alpha Legion, and they seek to overthrow the Tau and reclaim their way of life. The Galg, they would be like that one dude who's perfectly content with the way he is, and definitely the happiest dude you know. But everybody tells him he's weird, his life sucks, and he should try to do better for himself. He's also probably a stoner. And these next two, unlike the Galg, don't really have that much interesting stuff going for them. They're kind of just like the kids who were at your school, but honestly, they're side characters, if even, and they're kind of just there to fill out a role sheet. The Rangorn and the Herenian are 2 Tau auxiliaries whose only trait seems to be that they are Tau auxiliaries. Next up are the Vespids, or the Malcor in nerdy blue terms. I've always really liked the Vespid. Flying bug soldiers with green energy guns have been cool to me since Halo 2 when you mowed them down with that balcony machine gun in New Mombasa. The Vespid are a partially insectoid race that's a bit bigger than humans and have chitinous wings that apparently might function like jetpacks. They use these wings not only for flight, but also to emit ultrasonic vibrations to control their tech. They also have 6 eyes, which that's not just the flux on the Nikasar. Each set of eyes has a different function. The top sees ultraviolet light, the middle sees the human visible spectrum, and the bottom sees an infrared. Finally, the Vespid have a very complex language due to their unique mouth structures that is pretty much unintelligible to the Tau. This caused the Tau to have trouble recruiting the Vespid, and due to this failure of communication, the Vespid thought the Tau were a bunch of non-sentient doo-doo heads and were uncooperative. Luckily for the Tau, though, the Ethereals made a quote-unquote communication device that allowed the Vespid to communicate and also conveniently brainwashed, instilled the Vespid leaders with
Ah.
the righteous ideas of the greater good.
Ah.
Here, wear this hat. It'll help us communicate easier. The greater good is all that matters. Let's work together. This is my life and also my technology. Praise the greater good. Along with their speed and flight capabilities that make them good scouts in the Tau army, the Vespid also have pretty advanced tech. Most notably, their crystal technology that is operated using their wing noises. Their primary weapon is a neutron blaster, which blends Tau tech with their own crystal technology to shoot energy blasts from unstable crystals. And I feel like the Vespid could fit two stereotypes quite nicely. First off, they're that weird kid who's always spewing unintelligible nonsense, but he's actually pretty smart and athletic. And they're also that girl who constantly talks about the mystical energy within crystals. And she only buys crystal products on full moon so that
I
aura
can see
is
that.
enhanced, or whatever the stupid star sign nonsense she has to say. Except in the Vespid's case, their crystals actually do have magic powers. So finally, let's end on a bang. A big bang, because this last species is huge. The Vorg are huge kaiju-sized Xenos who
Oh my God.
usually are peaceful, but they aren't afraid to tussle with the muscle. These fellas, they don't have much lore, but what they do have is cool. Kaiju-sized aliens is enough reason for them to get a lot more love. These big boys are said to go head-to-head with Knights and maybe even Titans. Just imagine how cool a kaiju model would look next to the Tau battlesuits. It'd be like if in Pacific Rim, the kaiju and Jaegers teamed up to fight some Space Marines or something. And then obviously these guys fit the gentle giant stereotype perfectly, and if the auxiliaries got a high school movie, the Vorg would probably have some big blindside energy. And so those are all the Tau auxiliaries I could find. I think the allied species is a really cool concept, and it kind of reminds me of the Halo Covenant. It really sets them apart from the other factions since their specialists are fulfilled by different species. Or, at least in theory it does, since unfortunately the Tau only have models for 2 of their auxiliaries, which is pretty lame, but at least we have some cool descriptions. It would be really, really cool for the auxiliaries to get some rules in their own detachment for the Tau, because, like, mechs are cool, but so are psychic spacefarers and kaiju, so, you know, get on it, GW, my money's not going to spend itself. But anyways, let me know what you thought of the video, let me know if I missed anything or got something wrong. I'm sure someone out there will be disappointed I forgot to mention their favorite Xenos, the Glep Shit Glorbs, and their whole one sentence of lore. And if I did, I'm truly very, very sorry. And as always, please
it sounds like there's actually like there are so many auxiliaries.
All your auxiliary species.
And it makes sense. You guys said that they're new.
Next week, I think I might do something a little different and talk about more of the model aspect of 40k.
Okay, I want to read comments now. I didn't want to talk over the video because like it was moving so fast, but I mean, I like the concept with all the different species and stuff. Yeah, the Tau auxiliary is fleshed out better. Seems to be a common desire, you know? Arcs and Elder both represent threats. Too difficult to eradicate. Elder got Phoenix Lords. The Tau are the only force of good relative. They got kaijus apparently. We'd like to see them develop more and make it to the tabletop. Yeah, it would be interesting. It sounds, I mean, you guys said they're like the baby to the Warhammer universe, so hopefully they flesh them out more so people like them a bit better and it gives them more story. I mean, I like the idea of all these different, you know, alien, like, you know, they're all aliens to each other, but they've formed like a unit that works together, you know? Hello, Gokiga. We're doing good. How are you? Yeah, there's potential. So you don't ask for kaijus? What do you mean? They have the worst neighbors. Who has good neighbors? The youngest in lore, but not in the game. Okay. Yeah. So you know they're new. We gotta give them a chance. They're new. They're new. Excuse me. Hi, Rio. Okay. The Wars for Armageddon, Part 1. When the tower first introduced? Well, that's crazy. Okay, I don't know anything about this, I think.
Hi friends, of all the horrible 40k planets, Armageddon might be one of the
Oh, it's a
horriblest.
planet.
Much
Okay.
like Usain Bolt, Armageddon's name became prophetic as it experienced 3 major apocalyptic wars in the present
Oh,
time
shit.
period. I only say
Okay.
present time period because before Armageddon was Armageddon, it was called Olinor, and it was obviously
Oh.
one of the planets involved in the Olinor Crusade. This was one of the biggest Imperial victories during the Great Crusade and the last major battle that the Emperor personally commanded. After their victory against the Orcs, the Emperor made Horus War Master and began working on his Webway project. But we aren't talking about 30k today. Let's jump 10,000 years in the future and get back to 40k. Armageddon is a large piece of garbage planet that falls into that magic zone of the worst place ever, but it's just too darn important to delete. Just like how we can't nuke the crackhead legions and gator swarms of Florida because, well, Disney World is an important fortress, the Imperium can't exterminate the Chaos Legions and Orc Hordes of Armageddon because it's a significant industrial hub and it's also in a very important defensive position in the galaxy. So with that little preamble out of the way, let's get right into the first war for Armageddon. This war was primarily carried out by the Force of Chaos, notably including the World Eaters. The Chaos Legions are, as their name suggests, chaotic. So they often fight each other just as much as they fight other factions.
Oh, that's
However,
interesting.
on one very special day, Chaos Christmas came early when a Space Hulk, Devourer of Stars, appeared on a demon world. Much like a Fortnite battle bus, this Hulk was large enough to transport all the boys into an epic battle. So, since their sweet ride pulled up, a significant Chaos Force decided to halt their infighting and beat the shit out of the Imperium instead. A huge Chaos Force mobilized and prepared for a huge scrap! No! Stop! The Orcs are for later! Oh, and I also almost forgot to mention, but this
Have a
force
good night,
was led
fella.
by a little guy you might know, Demon Primarch Angron. And if that doesn't ring a screaming bell, you might know him by his legal name, Angronius of Nucaria, Lord of the
Angron.
Red Sands.
Angron.
If you aren't familiar with Mr. Angronius, he
Mr.
is an
Angry.
absolute total beast. Primarch's already bad news, so a mega-roided Demon Prince Primarch is even worse news. And so back to the Space Hulk, the Chaos Forces kind of took a hippie approach and kind of just let the waves take them wherever they needed to be. And they just so happened to land in a system with the name perfectly befitting an apocalyptic invasion. A big round of applause to the Warp for keeping things thematic. As the chaotic forces were on their road trip, the Imperials were already having a bad time in Armageddon. In the giant hive cities of the planet, the Planetary Defense Force were facing a number of revolts and general civil unrest. Luckily for the PDF, these revolts were mostly made up of malnourished, crackhead hive dwellers who probably haven't even seen the sun. So the PDF was able to deal with it without any outside reinforcements. Unfortunately for the PDF, they were able to deal with it without any outside reinforcements. Since they didn't call for any reinforcements, they would be very, very ill-prepared for the incoming Chaos invasion. Hey, nice. We quelled these dang revolts. Another day, another PDF victory. What's that? That, my dear document format, would be the Space Hulk Devourer of Stars. Angron made planetfall and led his legions of Marines, cultists, demons, and assorted freaks against the region of Armageddon Prime. The PDF proceeded to have the worst day ever as Angron's armies wreaked havoc across the lands, killing millions of Imperials shortly upon arrival. After some...
Yuki! You have to sit over here or get off the desk. We're learning. We're watching videos. He keeps blocking the screen. Are you gonna sit down? Okay. He sat down, so we're good. Giant clump of derelict spaceships. Okay. I know, I want to learn about Ingron too.
Desperate fighting, the survivors fell back through the jungles into a secondary region,
Soon.
creatively named Armageddon Secondus, since it was second to Armageddon Prime, which was the first. And luckily for the Imperials, Angron was too busy emoting after his victory at Armageddon Prime, and he wasted valuable time erecting monuments to his victory and celebrating. In this time, the Imperials were able to regroup, and the Space Wolf reinforcements finally arrived. Led by the legendary Logan Gribnar, the PDF, Steel Legion, and Space Wolves prepared their defenses for Angron's approaching armies. It
Logan?
was said that the Wolves were outnumbered 1,000 to 1, but luckily for them, they were fighting the World Eaters, not the Wolf Eaters. To even the odds, Grimnar led a daring assault on the World Eaters and lured them into a jungle trap in which the Wolves and Steel Legion killed a bunch of Marines. Afterwards, the Wolves attacked the weakened Chaos Force in an epic Berserker on Berserker river battle. Despite the
Wow.
wolves making some progress against the hordes, Angron was able to break through their defensive lines
no.
and make his way towards the Hive's Hell's Reach and Infernus. Hell's Reach will be more important later on, so keep it in mind. Realizing that Angron's worth 415 points while he's only a measly 145 points, Grimnar knew how absolutely hopeless it would be to fight the Demon Primarch. So he called for some Grey Knight reinforcements. The Grey Knights are a super secret, ultra elite anti-demon chapter of Space Marines. So, of all the Marines, they had the best shot at vanquishing Angron. So, before Angron could make it to the Hive cities, the Grey Knights teleported right in the center of his army and attacked the Primarch, while the Wolves led a final counterattack along with the Steel Legion. Angron was able to kill the Knights with relative ease by stroking his ginormous black blade. With strokes of his black blade. But, luckily for the Knights, they had a named character amongst their ranks, and a knight named Hyperion used the power of faith, will, and friendship in order to shatter the Black Blade, which significantly weakened Angron. The Knights pushed their advantage, and Grey Knight Captain Aurelian began to banish Angron. As he was being banished, the Demon Prince struck a mortal blow on the Captain. But banishing Angron wasn't even the coolest thing Aurelian did that day. As Angron was being banished, he taunted Aurelian by saying how the Captain's soul would be eaten by demons forever and ever. Tee-hee-hee. But Aurelian just said to this, "So be it," and then blasted Angron into the Shadow Realm. After Angron was banished, the demons weren't able to hold their material form and dissipated back into the warp. The remaining cultists, marines, and freaks were either killed or sent running by the Imperials. The marines and guard worked together to hunt down the Chaos Remnants, thus closing off their first war for Armageddon. Despite their victory, the Imperials suffered heavy losses, especially the Grey Knights, who only had 13 survivors out of the 109 sent. To make matters worse, the Inquisition arrived and ruined the celebration party. They deemed the Chaos exposure to be a threat and sent all the guardsmen and Imperial citizens who just heroically fought off a giant mega demonic invasion to work camps where they were sterilized and worked to death. Additionally, the Inquisition purged Imperial forces that tried to leave the planet. The Space Wolves took issue with this since they wanted to protect the people who fought alongside them. This led to a little thing called the Months of Shame, where the Wolves challenged the Inquisition and had a few bloody disagreements, but that's a video for another day. About half a century later, Armageddon lived up to its name once again as a massive orc war headed by the legendary war boss Gazkul Mag Uruk Thraka made its way to the Imperial world. Much like Angron, Gazkul is bad news. He is the prophet of the Wah, chosen by Gork and Mork themselves. So, once again, Armageddon was ultra mega boned. To make even worse for them, the Space Hulk that Gaz and friends were riding on was really janky and it regularly got attacked by demons, which, for anyone else, would have been the end of their little trip. But for Gaz, it was just a pregame. You see, orcs get stronger proportional to the might and number of opponents that they fight. So this was literally just XP grinding before the real Wah began. So then finally, a second apocalyptic Space Hulk arrived in Armageddon. The orcs destroyed the orbital defenses and made planetfall. Quite literally, as the Hulk fell from space onto the planet, along with orc ships called rocks, which are asteroids that the orcs carved nice little chairs in and strapped like a million guns to.
Oh my
The initial
god.
landing caused major damage to Armageddon Prime, and the Hulk itself completely destroyed Hive Ulfern. Then, to make matters even worse, there was a convenient warp storm that prevented Imperial reinforcements. Then, to make worse even worse, the Imperial Governor of Armageddon, Hermann von Straub, is perhaps the stupidest guy in the world and failed every single intelligence check he possibly could. When his advisors told him that they foresaw an orc invasion, he said, "No worries, I got that dog in me." Even though he most definitely did not have that quote-unquote dog in him. Then, when ultra badass hero of the Imperium, Sebastian Yarrick, rightfully sends out a distress signal, crayon connoisseur Herman banished Yarrick to Armageddon Secondus. The orc assault was relentless, and they were quickly overwhelming the forces of Armageddon Prime. The local PDF desperately tried to hold the line, but were broken nonetheless. So the Imperials once again had to fall back to Armageddon Secondus, which, if you remembered, absolute Chad Yarrick was recently banished to. So, there's still hope. But, once again, the orcs broke through the Imperial defenses and made their way towards Hive Hades. Luckily, the Imperials had the Iron Skull's Titan Legion to fight back the Greenskins. Unluckily, they were commanded by Glue Guzzler Herman. Herman ordered them to go into the middle of the fucking horde. The middle of an orc horde. The orcs, one of the iconic melee factions. Yeah, you Titans, you guys have ginormous cannons that basically shoot sunbeams and 1 trillion bullets. But yeah, go in the middle of the orc horde. Yeah, so this moron basically said, "Big sword go burr." And then he sent the Titans into the middle of the largest orc horde he could find and basically said, "All right, do your due. Kill them all, please." In the battle, the Titans did quite well, all things considered, of the Iron Skulls. Curtis, they were... In the battle, the Titans did quite well, all things considered, and killed many orcs. But they were eventually overwhelmed up close by the Orc Gargants. The commander of the Iron Skulls Curtis Mannheim, was an absolute beast and took down 3 Gargans all by himself before finally being critically wounded. Knowing it was over for him, he overloaded his Titan's reactor and caused a huge explosion that killed millions of orcs and gave the Imperials valuable time to regroup.
Wow.
Although the Titans were out for the rest of the war, Yarick took charge of Hive Hades' defenses and prepared for the biggest battle of the war. Yarick recruited the various gangers of the Hive and assembled a sizable army. The remaining Orc Gargans bombarded the Hive while the invading force gathered to prepare for their assault. Soon after, Brainworms Herman remembered that his family had a reserve of virus bombs that might just be useful against a giant invasion. He
Virus
rushed the bombs
bombs.
into missiles and triumphantly redeemed himself when his plan went perfectly and he killed all the orcs.
Wow.
Everybody said, "We're sorry for calling you stupid, Herman. You were right all along. You are the true hero of the Imperium. You shall now be henceforth known as Herman the Hero, Imperial Saint." Yarick is an idiot. He was executed, and then Herman went on to single-handedly slay Ghazghkull, Abaddon, and the Silent King, and he brought peace to mankind. No, I'm just fucking with you. Just like his other plans, this one mostly failed as the bombs and missiles were super old and had some performance issues.
Oh.
To his credit, though, the bombs did kill a fair bit of orcs, just not enough to stop the assault. It was at this time that Horrible Herman became the most relatable 40k character, and he went to his room to cry about his failures. On the other end of the competency spectrum, Yarick was leading the Imperials at Hive Hades, and they were valiantly repelling the orc advances. With the bulk of the attacks being foiled, Ghazghkull stepped in to personally coordinate the attacks on the Hive. Gaz came up with a ton of strategies, some of which were even said to be told directly from Gork and Mork. He created huge siege weapons. He sent elite commando infiltration teams into the Hive's vents. He created even huger siege weapons. But time after time, his plans were foiled by Yarick. So, Ghazghkull sent one of his mightiest war bosses to kill the Commissar. War Boss Ugelhard wrecked the perimeter defenses and eventually engaged Yarick in a duel. The War Boss cut off Yarick's arm, but Yarick passed the feel no pain roll and decapitated Ugelhard with his
Oh,
chainsaw.
shit.
The absolute crab Chad Yarick held up the severed power claw, and then the remaining orc forces retreated in horror. Just imagine how much of an absolute Chad Yarick is for not only defeating a war boss in melee, but then using his iron balls and indomitable will to send a bunch of orcs pissing and crying away in fear.
Yeah, that's
Meanwhile,
crazy.
in Hive Acheron, one of the only other surviving hives, the Imperials readied their defenses. They were ill-equipped and ragged, but they were inspired by Yarick's ongoing defense of Hive Hades. Dum Dum Herman also sent something nice. He sent them good luck wishes and 20 dudes to help defend the Hive. But the Hive's governor was not deterred, and he prepared for the incoming horde. The orcs led a massive frontal assault on the Hive when they were suddenly blasted from orbit. Space Marine reinforcements had finally arrived. The Blood Angels, Salamanders, and Ultramarines had turned the tide of the Battle of Acheron, and they secured the first Imperial victory of the war. Dante of the Blood Angels assumed control of the Imperial forces on planet, and contrary to all reason, Pinhead Herman was angered at the Space Marines' arrival since he, quote-unquote, had it all under control. Dante said,
my
"I'm
God.
too old for this shit," and he arrested Herman. Eventually, Dimwit Herman did manage to escape on a land speeder, but of course he crashed like a moron. However, his core was never found. Back in Hades, Ghazghkull was finally making some progress as he ramped up his efforts and the Hive was running out of supplies and morale. Dante attempted to assassinate the war boss, but his efforts had failed. However, in one of the bloodiest battles of the Second War, the Marines were able to take back Hive Tartarus. In this battle, the orcs ran out of ammo and had to resort to full-on Oonga Boonga caveman tactics, using rocks and melee weapons to survive.
God.
In this battle, Ghazghkull was also supposedly killed when he got shot in the face with a bolter, but his body was never found, which, in literary terms, means he didn't die and he'll be back later. So don't worry, orc fans. With Gaz out of the picture, the remaining orc forces faltered, and the Imperials were able to gain the upper hand. Hive Hades was eventually conquered by the orcs for a short time, but the Marines made their way to the Hive in order to aid the Imperial remnants. Only a few survived, and Yarick was found kicking amongst a bunch of slain orcs. Ghazghkull, who was of course not dead, made one final attempt to take the planet, but he ultimately failed and decided to retreat to his space hulk so he could regroup his forces. After Ghazghkull left, the Imperials basically just cleaned up the rest of the orcs and they retook Armageddon Prime, successfully defending the world yet again.
Wow.
Ghazghkull decided that this was a mere practice run and he prepared for a sequel. Speaking of sequels, you may have noticed I only talked about 2 wars in this video, even though I said there were 3 major wars. But don't worry, I do know how to count. However, this video would have been way too long if I covered all 3 of them. So, I'll cover the 3rd war for Armageddon, along with the legendary battle of Hell's Reach in next week's video. So stay tuned for part 2 of the wars for Armageddon.
Okay.
And with that, I hope everyone enjoyed this week's video. The wars for Armageddon are some of the most iconic battles in 40k, and they have some of the coolest characters. Yarick, Ghazghkull, and Angron are all super iconic and formidable foes, which makes for some awesome stories.
Yarick seems
and how can I
cool.
forget? Simpleton Herman, true hero of the Imperium, was there too. But anyway.
Why does he draw him with a chunk missing out of his head?
As always, please like,
Yeah, muscle
comment,
arm me.
subscribe, and consider sharing to all your favorite Marines,
Muscle armor.
Greenskins, and assorted freaks. I'd also like to thank my patrons for supporting the channel a little extra. It really does help. And thank you to everyone who's recently subscribed and got the channel to 10K. That's just absolutely awesome. I couldn't be happier about the reception to my silly little videos. So again, thanks. Man, I wish we could just get a simpleton Hermann von Straub model. He'd cost like 200 points and he'd have a 12-inch debuff aura. A man can dream.
Okay. So the Months of Shame were a neat concept written poorly. There's a lot of that sort with the Space Wolves. Oh, I see. The Grey Knights only send a company for Black Crusade. Angron respawns every 8 days. What do you mean he respawns every 8 days? Yark is the most boring person ever. Just happens to be cool as fuck in battle. Yeah, and I like how Cracked Duck drew him. It was the only explanation to his dumb thinking. Yark is MIA. Oh. It's a running joke that people meeting Yark are taken aback how cold he is to everything and he doesn't want to talk. People think he's dead. Corin likes Angron, so he just goes nuh-uh every time Angron gets beaten. When he dies, Corin puts him back together. Ah. So Angron has been defeated before. But Corin likes him so much that he like recreates him. Damn. Dude, I can't wait to learn more about Angron. I'm gonna need people to post video suggestions in Discord. Because he seems really cool. Yeah, I saw you guys talk about Hell's Reach. So. Huh. Spawn camp every 8 days. 8 is a Corn sacred number. Oh, okay. Okay. Hell's Reach, really good. Maybe we could do a movie night. I wonder if I could do... Oh, but it's like a real movie, isn't it? It's not like a fan movie that we could watch and react to. Ingron Eater of Worlds is a crazy good video. Okay. Where is my... Where is my... Okay. Sorry, I was missing my window. I found it. Okay. Fan movie. Audiobook audio. Oh, so if it's a fan movie, then I could probably watch it on stream instead of doing like a Discord watch along. 2.5 hours long. Okay. Demon Primarch. Demons can be banished from real space, but almost never destroyed permanently. Okay. Well, let's watch about the Third War for Armageddon. And then that might be as much as my brain can take today. We'll see.
So far we talked about 2 reasons why you shouldn't name your planet Armageddon, both of which were massive apocalyptic wars. So today I'll talk about the 3rd reason, which, again, is a massive apocalyptic war. After his defeat in the Second War for Armageddon, Gaskell Mag Uruktraka, prophet of the Wa, began to regroup his forces. Unlike most orcs, Gaskell isn't a complete dumbass meathead. Half his head is metal, after all, not meat. And he's actually a very skilled tactician. As such, he knew that his defeat at Armageddon was an invaluable teaching moment, and he devised new strategies with lessons born of his loss. But, as he prepared, he began to doubt whether or not he should actually go through with his plans, as he began to have visions from Gork and Mork suggesting that they may not want him to return to the planet. Along with this, Ultra Chad Makari also told Gaz maybe he shouldn't go back to Armageddon. But despite the literal gods and also Ultra Chad Makari telling him not to, Gaz just killed Makari and decided to invade Armageddon once more. Largely in part because his pal, Mad Doc Grotznik, told him, you know, it'd be really dang cool to do it. So Gaz prepared once more for his walk, and in his preparations he also recruited war boss Nazdreg Urgrub. Nazdreg would prove very useful later on, as he had access to a lot of teleporter technology that would be devastating. In the
Teleporter.
And so one of his last significant preparations was to take over the planet of Golgotha in order to get resources and manufacture equipment for his upcoming war. Gaskell easily took over the cities and factories of the planet, converting them into orc slave factories. However, he was intercepted by Crab Chad and coolest guy ever, Sebastian Yarick. Yarick led a squadron of Baneblades with his own personal Baneblade, the Fortress of Arrogance. Despite riding the coolest vehicle ever with one of the coolest names ever, Yarick was eventually overrun and surrounded.
I do like
Yarick was
it.
then taken to Gaskell's Space Hulk and tortured for weeks.
Shit.
However,
Shit.
after some fun times torturing Yarick in his dungeon, Gaskell decided to release the legendary commissar because he fell in love with him. I mean, he wanted Yarick to give him a good time. I mean, a good fight. I mean, you know what? Never mind. Who am I kidding? Gaskell was definitely 100% in love with Yarick. So, 7 years later, Gaskell finally returned to his murder bestie and finally launched his second assault. The Greenskin fleet was the largest fleet to ever assault an Imperial world, and it greatly outnumbered the Imperial forces. They easily broke through the naval blockades, and they made their way to the planet's surface. Hearing of Gaskell's arrival, Yarick hurriedly prepared his defense force, which comprised of Guardsmen, Titans, Sisters of Battle, and a bunch of Space Marine chapters, one of which being the legendary Black Templars. Once again, the orcs literally made planetfall, and rocks crashed into the planet. Additionally, Gaskell shot a giant asteroid at Hive Hades, completely annihilating the hive that Yarick so doggedly defended half a century earlier. The rocks that crashed into the planet were fitted with teleporters, and Gaskell quickly teleported troops and equipment from space to the planet in mere moments in order to overwhelm the Imperial defenses. Across the world, huge battles waged. Imperials faced unending waves of orcs. Feral orcs from the First War came out of hiding to scrap. Titans battled Gargants. Yarick dramatically looked at the camera and he said, "Gulp. Now this is truly Armageddon." One of the first times assaulted by the orc forces was Hell's Reach. The battle for Hell's Reach is one of the most iconic battles in all of 40k and one of the most devastating Space Marine last stands. The Black Templars sent 100 Templars from their crusading fleet in order to aid Armageddon, which, honestly, seems a bit low to me, but GW isn't really known for their number skills, so whatever. But the Marines fortified Hell's Reach alongside the Guardsmen and Sisters of Battle. Grimaldus led strike teams to kill some of the initial orc forces. However, when the bulk of the horde arrived, the Templars hunkered down within the city walls. Imperial Navy bombers thinned the approaching green tides, and the Imperial gunlines would attempt to pick off the surviving orcs. Acquiring more firepower, Grimaldus sent his Master of the Forest to seek out an ancient weapon called Oberon. Oberon was a massive war machine called an Ordinatus engine. Its main strength was its humongous Nova cannon. This cannon was usually equipped on Imperial Navy battleships, and its devastating blast could literally one-shot Titans. After some time, the orcs amassed their largest force yet. Millions of orcs alongside hundreds of Gargants and vehicles assaulted the hive walls once again. The massive horde was met with airstrikes in the Titan Legion, Legio, and Vigilata. Eventually, the overwhelming number of orcs broke through the defensive lines and flooded the hive. After about a month of brutal combat, the orcs had gained control of the majority of Hell's Reach. However, there were still Imperial holdouts going strong. In addition to the ground forces, the orcs also had submarines assaulting the docks of Hell's Reach, bombarding the hive, and sending in extra troops. The Black Templars desperately fought in the docks and were beginning to falter when drop pods burst through the clouds above and barraged the city streets. It was the Salamanders, here to aid their battle brothers and turn the tide of the dockside din. Ordered by Yarick, the Imperials spread out and created fortified holdouts throughout the city in order to hold the hive as long as possible. As their forces whittled, the Imperials were about to be whittled even more, like a lot more. You know what? Whittling is kind of too small of a word for this because super mega giant huge mega Gargant named Godbreaker arrived in the city to prop some humans. Godbreaker was even bigger than the Imperial Titans, including the Imperator Titans. Imperator Titans are those humongoid Titans with freaking churches on their backs. Or at least they're supposed to be giant humongoid Titans when in reality they're only like 50 meters tall, which is only really as tall as like the Leaning Tower of Pisa or Godzilla, the original one. Yeah, I mean, like, that's tall, but I don't know if it's tall enough for a Titanic god machine, you know? But you know what? My girlfriend tells me that size doesn't matter, so let's just move on. The only thing that could even hope to compete with the gargantuan Gargant was the Imperator Titan Storm Herald. However, Storm Herald was badly damaged and worn out, so was only capable of one shot. Me too, buddy. Me too. But you know what? It's like when you and the boys are on Fortnite, it's down to the last guy, only your buddy's still alive, it's a 1v1 for the Vicroy. He steadies his purple sniper, takes aim, you're all waiting for him to kill the last dude. He takes a breath, he shoots, he fucking misses, and then gets lasered by the opponent, and you call him the worst things possibly imaginable. That is exactly what happened with Storm Herald. It whiffed its one shot and immediately got killed by Godbreaker. After many hard battles, only 35 Black Templar remained. Led by Grimaldus, they made their last stand in an Imperial temple. Along with some Sisters of Battle and Guardsmen, they desperately held the cathedral, knowing that the end was nigh. But they had one last hope. Super Mega Chekhov's gun Oberon. The war engine was awoken and it prepared to fire. 2 Warhound Titans sacrificed themselves to hold down Godbreaker, and the massive cannon obliterated the troublesome Gargant, giving the Imperials one last chance. Although the Orc Titan was taken out, the cathedral was eventually overwhelmed and collapsed on the Imperial and Orc forces fighting within. The only survivor of this final battle was Grimaldus as he emerged from the desecrated building. Oh, and while this was all happening, Hive Akron also suddenly fell into Orc hands. However, the Hive didn't fall due to a huge Orc assault. It fell because everybody's favorite war criminal, Half-Brain Herman. But this time the Hive didn't fall due to his tactical incompetence. It fell because this motherfucker teamed up with the damn Orcs to overthrow the Hive from within. Yeah,
what the fuck?
Go crazy with that one, Power Scalers. PP Herman was able to make Hive Akron fall almost by himself. It took the stupid Orcs a giant army, and they never even got it in the first war. Food for thought. However, despite their huge losses, the sacrifices made at Hell's Reach were not in vain, as they distracted a large Orc force long enough that the planet's natural season of fire could begin. The season of fire is a series of insano storms that overtake the planet every so often. It's like the storm scene in Fury Road, except it's practically planet-wide.
Whoa.
Hell's Reach also leads to a super cool moment where Grimaldus realizes the value of humanity and that the Space Marines' true strength isn't their capacity to kill, it's the power that they have to inspire hope within humanity against the horrors of the galaxy. But enough of that silly, quote-unquote, emotion stuff. Let's get back to the war and killing. Oh yeah, the Season of Fire. These storms are so bad that even the Orcs don't want to go outside. And this brief respite from the Orcs allowed the Imperials to reconvene and strengthen their defenses. And from this, Yarg was able to once again gather his forces for a counterattack. Additionally, the last Chancer's Penal Legion hunted down Hairbrained Herman, finally putting an end to the legendary figure. The Imperials engaged the Orcs on many fronts. Cadia and Armageddon Orc Hunters, as their name suggests, hunted Orcs in the equatorial jungles. Green Dreadnoughts got in dreadful mech battles with Death Dreads, and the huge wastelands were raised as Imperials and Greenskins clashed on the battlefield. The 2 massive forces were at a stalemate, and you know who really hates stalemates? Gazkul does. He finds him incredibly stale, mate. And so the Borg Prophet resurrected Makari. Makari's 40k Jesus confirmed? Huh? And a little side tangent because I think it's funny.
He resurrected his friend
Gazkul could just
that he
touch
killed.
any random grot, say, hey, you're Makari now. And then all of Makari's memories enter the grot, forging a new Makari. Kind of like an Elder Exarch, except better because Makari's the best character in the setting. And so after resurrecting his little buddy, Gazkul said, hey, listen, man. I won't apologize for things I did. That would be like hella lame. However, I guess like technically you were right. So, sorry, not sorry, but I love you, bro. I shouldn't have killed you. So like, let's blow this popsicle stand and start a different holy war. When suddenly a Lehman Russ battle tank Kool-Aid Man into the room and blasted Gazkul. Best character ever, Makari doesn't let dudes mess with his bros, and he climbed into the tank, murdering the entire crew.
Oh my god.
Seeing the giant flaming hole in his chest as a giant flaming sign from the gods that he was wrong, Gazkul announced his departure from the world, and he would go on to start the Great War. And so after the war boss left, Yarick and some Black Templars followed Gazkul in hopes of killing him once and for all. Even with Gazkul's departure, the Orc forces still fought and war raged on almost endlessly. Armageddon essentially became Disneyland to the Orcs as the endless war became known as Ragnarok. And it was a place where the Orcs would make holy pilgrimage in order to have a good old time crumping some humies. Billions of Imperials died defending the world, and the death toll continues to grow. However, the planet is far too important to fall, so the Imperium is willing to make some tremendous sacrifices in its defense. Sometime later, once Cadia had fallen and the Great Rift tore the galaxy asunder, Armageddon was invaded by Chaos forces once again, making this hellhole a literal hellhole. And it was so bad at times that the Orcs even teamed up with the Imperials to fight some demons. Half the world became demonic, and an endless 3-way war rages on in the present setting.
Wow.
And that concludes the Wars for Armageddon.
That's crazy.
I hope you enjoyed this 2-part series. Armageddon is truly one of the coolest settings in 40k. Along with that, the Battle for Hell's Reach is a really cool story in and of itself. Grimaldus' journey and learning about the value of humanity and what the Space Marines truly represent is really powerful, so I definitely give that a read. But with that, that concludes the Wars for Armageddon. Thank you everyone for watching and supporting the channel, as well as my channel Patrons who support the channel.
What a shitty place,
I really do appreciate it, and I use the support to reinvest in the channel to improve the quality of my videos. And, as always, please like, comment, subscribe, and consider sharing to all your holy Orc pilgrims. Thanks. Herman and Makari would solo the Emperor so easily, like, thank God this chick in a miniskirt put an end to Herman before that could happen.
Oh my god. Okay. Let me go to my chatting screen. Let me see where we're at so I remember. What is it? Iconic Imperial Guard Regiment Influences, Part 2. Oh, I see. Like the IRL and stuff. Okay. What video number is this? 35. We made it through 10 videos. Oh my god. We made it through 10 videos. I think I'll remember where we were, so yeah. I don't think my brain can take any more. It can't take any more info dump today. It's been a long day and a long week, and yeah. Your brain's fried and you knew some of it? Yeah, I also don't want to like spend like a 6-hour stream watching like lore and stuff, because then I'll forget. I need to take it in small doses, you know? Armageddon's the place that GW farms for cool battle art. Yeah, I could see that. So the yellow uniform gas mask guardsmen are from Armageddon. Oh, Lucky Stabbo, where he can damage anyone no matter how tanky on a roll of 6. Oh. Yap. You watched the Salamander one? No, we were watching in order from oldest to newest, and the Salamander one's quite newer, so we didn't get to that one yet. Yeah, you guys said Pancreas no work, so I'm gonna try to remember that one to check that. Creator out. I really do wanna, next time we watch, which will probably be early next week, maybe Monday or Tuesday, I really want to watch something about Angron and Sanguinius. Yeah. 6 hours of Warhammer? 6 hours would be too much. I think my brain would be so fried I wouldn't remember anything. So far we've done like 3 to 4 hour videos. We watched Bricky's new faction faction video part 1, and we watched his video on all the different like Primarch factions or whatever. And now we've watched some kind of funny videos from Crackduck of different things. I finally got to learn a little bit about the Battle Sisters though, so that made me happy. Funny, yeah, videos similar to the ones you've watched but with different biases. 6 hours of rookie numbers. It's just hard to actively learn when you're and like absorb so much information at once, you know? And I'm genuinely interested, so I don't want to just like farm it, you know, and do it forever. I want to like actually learn what's going on. So I think 3 to 4 hours is a good number. And I'm not a night owl, so 10:30 is late for me. Don't say that. I literally streamed for like 7 hours earlier today. How long was my stream earlier today? Like 7 hours. I streamed from 9:30 to 4. And now I'm streaming again. Come on, guys. Work with me here a little bit. Give me a little something. Learning what's going on is a slippery slope. I mean, I can't imagine I would ever play in person, to be honest. But, I'm absolutely not opposed to, like, painting. Because I think painting sounds really fun. Painting sounds so fun. Okay. Let's see. Credit given, thank you. That's all I asked. I'm just seeing who I want to send you guys to right now. And the rest of them in painting silly guys. I don't know if anyone has painted yet. I don't know if anyone has painted yet. Been streaming a while. He's been streaming a while. Let's see. Let me just see who I haven't rated amongst them. Amongst the people. Have I rated her? I've rated her once. Who else? Let me see. Oh my god. It's breaking. I have not rated her. Okay. My something is having a bad time right now. I'm pretty sure I rated her recently. Let's see. Yeah, I did. Okay. Well, we're gonna rate Arisa because I haven't rated her, and I have rated everybody else recently. I think you guys will enjoy Arisa. She is so talented. She's the newest gen for Glitch Stars. She is on YouTube as well, I believe. So let me see if I can find her on YouTube for you. I don't know how to switch over to like I don't know how to raid her on YouTube. I don't know how that works. But if you guys want to check her out, there's her channel. Arisa's great. I will be live tomorrow with Advice from Beyond the Grave. So yeah, I'll see you guys then. Have an amazing night and day wherever you are. Please take care of yourself, drink plenty of water, and make your night really great. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for my advice talk show. Okay, bye guys. Ah!
Just a normal day or so we thought. Suddenly lost control, now you're caught. What is going on? Well, can't you see? You're under the control of Riri. The friendly neighborhood ghost is here to check in on all the lovely souls under her possession, hoping to give herself a